You can change how you feel about anything, starting right now, by learning simple habits that give you control over your mind and your day. Imagine waking up and knowing you will not be tossed around by other people's moods or the noise in your head. Imagine handling criticism without it shrinking you and moving through your day with steady focus and calm. This introduction will show you exactly what to practice so those things become real. You will hear clear steps that work in real life, not vague ideas that sound good on paper. You will learn how to notice feelings as they appear and what to do in the next 3 breaths. You will learn how to decide which thoughts deserve your time and which ones should be ignored. You will learn ways to keep your energy from being drained by other people or by your own bad habits. Each idea is practical and designed to be used the same day you hear it. Expect concrete tools for everyday moments, like a sudden text that spikes your heart rate, a meeting that triggers anger, or a memory that steals your sleep. I will guide you through simple checks you can do in a minute, and routines you can build in 5 to 10 focused minutes each morning. You will get short exercises to name your feelings, calm intense reactions, and choose one next action that moves you forward. You will also get ways to track results so you can see real progress rather than hoping you feel better someday. This audiobook covers the full path from awareness to action. You will learn how to set limits with people without drama, how to stop seeking approval and trust your own judgment, and how to turn setbacks into useful information with clear next steps. You will also find specific habits for digital life so your phone stops running your day and you start running it. These are practical moves you can test and improve on as you go. Stay with this program and you will build steady habits that change how you react to stress, disappointment, and criticism. The techniques are simple to practice and powerful in outcome because they change the small daily choices that shape your life. If you want less reactivity, more clarity, and steady progress, this audiobook will give you the plan and the tools to make that happen. Chapter 1. Build unshakable emotional boundaries to protect your inner peace. Inner peace is not something that appears by chance. It is built step by step through choices, discipline, and the way you respond to the world. The reason so many people feel drained, restless, or constantly affected by what others say or do is not because life is harder for them, but because they have not learned how to build strong emotional boundaries. When you lack boundaries, every small comment, every negative glance, every piece of bad news slips into your mind and shakes your balance. But when you create unshakable emotional boundaries, you begin to live from a place of stability. You begin to protect what matters most, your peace of mind and your ability to stay in control no matter what is happening around you. Building emotional boundaries is not about shutting yourself off from people or pretending that nothing ever bothers you. It is about knowing where you end and where the world begins. It is about protecting your mental and emotional space so you can live with clarity, focus, and strength. Boundaries allow you to filter what comes in, to decide what deserves your attention, and to guard your energy from things that bring no value. Without them, you are open to constant intrusion. With them, you remain steady, calm, and free. The first step to building unshakable boundaries is awareness. Most people do not even realize how much they allow into their inner world without question. They scroll endlessly through social media, soaking in negativity. They accept guilt from others, carrying burdens that are not theirs to carry. They react instantly to criticism, as if every word defines their worth. This lack of awareness makes them vulnerable. You must begin by paying attention to what affects you the most. Ask yourself which situations drain your energy, which people always leave you feeling worse, which conversations fill your mind with unnecessary noise. Identifying these is like finding the cracks in your armor. Once you see them, you can begin to strengthen those weak spots. After awareness comes the practice of separation. You must learn to separate what belongs to you from what belongs to others. If someone criticizes you harshly, you need to understand that their reaction says more about their inner state than about your worth. If someone dumps their frustration on you, you need to recognize that their emotions are their responsibility, not yours. Separation means refusing to take in everything as if it were a direct attack on you. It means recognizing that people carry their own wounds, and their words or behaviors often come from that place, not from truth. To practice separation, train yourself to pause before reacting. When something upsets you, stop and remind yourself, this is information, not a command. You do not have to accept every word as truth, and you do not have to respond immediately. That pause is your boundary. It is a small act of control that prevents the outside world from storming into your inner world without permission. In that pause, you decide whether this deserves your energy or not. The next step is clarity about your values and limits. Boundaries are not random walls you build out of fear. They are clear lines based on what matters most to you. If peace is your value, then you protect it by not engaging in endless arguments. If growth is your value, then you protect it by refusing to spend time with those who only complain and never improve. If respect is your value, then you protect it by walking away from those who constantly disregard your feelings. When you know your values, you know what is worth allowing into your life and what is not. Clarity also means defining how much access others have to you. Not everyone deserves the same level of closeness. Some people can be part of your inner circle, while others must remain at a distance. You decide this based on how their presence affects your well-being. Too many people let everyone in without question, and then wonder why they feel overwhelmed. Strong boundaries require you to choose carefully who and what you give space to. Another key to building emotional boundaries is learning the power of no. Saying no is not selfish. It is necessary. Every time you say yes to something that goes against your values, you weaken your boundaries. Every time you agree to carry someone else's load when you are already exhausted, you betray your peace. Saying no is an act of protection. It is an affirmation that your energy is valuable and cannot be wasted on things that do not serve your growth. Start practicing no without guilt. You do not need long explanations. A calm and firm no is enough. To strengthen these boundaries, you also need self-respect. If you do not respect yourself, no boundary will hold. Others can sense whether you believe in your own worth. If you constantly doubt yourself, if you think your needs are less important than others, your boundaries will collapse at the first push. But when you value yourself, when you understand that your well-being matters, your boundaries become unshakable. Self-respect is the foundation. Without it, every line you draw will fade. With it, you create walls that protect you without isolating you. You must also prepare for resistance. The moment you begin setting boundaries, some people will not like it. They may call you selfish, distant, or difficult. This is not because your boundaries are wrong, but because they were benefiting from your lack of them. Do not let their resistance weaken your resolve. Their discomfort is not your problem. If they truly value you, they will adjust. If they only valued what they could take from you, they will fade away. Either way, your peace is preserved. Boundaries are not built in a single day. They are trained daily through small actions. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen your boundary. Each time you say no without guilt, you reinforce your boundary. Each time you walk away from toxic energy, you protect your boundary. These small actions add up, layer by layer, until your boundaries become unshakable. In daily life, practice creating boundaries in simple ways. For example, limit how much time you spend on negative news. Turn off notifications that constantly pull your attention. Protect the first hour of your morning from interruptions, so you start the day with clarity. Refuse to engage in gossip or unnecessary arguments. These are not dramatic acts, but together they build a shield around your mind. You create a habit of protecting your energy, and over time it becomes second nature. One powerful exercise is to write down your non-negotiables. These are the lines you will not cross, no matter what. It might be, I will not argue late at night. I will not accept disrespectful behavior. I will not sacrifice sleep for endless obligations. I will not allow social media to dominate my time. Having these written makes them stronger because you remind yourself of your commitment each time you read them. They serve as a guide when emotions run high, keeping you aligned with your values. Another practical step is to practice emotional detachment from outcomes you cannot control. Many people let external events crush their peace because they believe everything must go their way. But when you accept that life is unpredictable and people will act as they choose, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Detachment is not indifference, it is wisdom. It means doing your best but not tying your peace to every result. This mental distance is a powerful boundary against disappointment and frustration. It is also important to create physical boundaries. Protecting your peace is not just mental, it is also about environment. Keep your space clean and free from constant noise. Set times when you are unreachable, so you can rest. Designate a place for reflection or meditation. Physical boundaries reinforce emotional ones, because the environment you live in shapes how easily you can stay calm and balanced. Building unshakable emotional boundaries will not only protect your peace, but also improve your relationships. When you know how to protect your inner world, you do not explode at small triggers. You do not carry silent resentment. You communicate calmly and clearly. You respect yourself, and in turn, you teach others how to respect you. Relationships thrive when both sides have clear boundaries, because neither feels drained or invaded. The deeper reward of strong boundaries is freedom. You stop being a slave to every opinion, every mood, every external event. You live from within. You decide what enters your space and what stays out. You gain the power to remain calm, even in chaos. This freedom is priceless, because it means your happiness is no longer at the mercy of the outside world. The journey is long, and it requires practice, but each step is worth it. Every boundary you build adds to your strength. Every time you protect your peace, you reclaim your life. Do not wait for others to respect your space. Respect it yourself first. Do not hope the world will be kind enough to leave you untouched. Create the shield that ensures your peace, no matter what comes your way. In the end, unshakable emotional boundaries are not about building walls to shut people out, but about building strength to remain steady within yourself. They are about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, self-respect over self-betrayal. When you commit to them, you stop letting anything affect you. You rise above the noise of the world, and you live with freedom, stability, and power. This is the beginning of mastering yourself, and it is the foundation for everything else you want to achieve. Chapter 2. Practice daily mindfulness, to observe feelings without immediate reaction. The strength of your life comes from the strength of your mind, and nothing gives you more control over your mind than the ability to pause, notice, and choose before reacting. Daily mindfulness is not just a calming practice, it is the discipline of training yourself to become the observer of your thoughts and emotions rather than their prisoner. Most people are carried away by every feeling that arises, every irritation that shows up, every fear that knocks on the door. They do not notice that they have a choice. They feel anger and immediately act in anger. They feel doubt and immediately retreat. They feel sadness and immediately sink into despair. The secret to breaking this pattern is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present and aware of your inner world without rushing to respond. To practice mindfulness is to step out of automatic living. Automatic living is when you allow emotions and impulses to control your words and decisions. Someone says something offensive, and before you think, you snap back. A thought of failure crosses your mind, and before you examine it, you give up. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle by creating a small but powerful gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, you gain freedom. You gain the ability to look at what you are feeling, understand it, and decide how to move forward. The simplest way to bring mindfulness into daily life is through awareness of breath. Your breath is always with you, and it is a natural anchor that brings you back to the present moment. Each morning, take a few minutes to sit quietly and focus only on breathing in and breathing out. Thoughts will come, distractions will arise, but your task is not to chase them or fight them. Simply notice them and return to the breath. This is how you begin training your mind to observe rather than react. Over time, this awareness becomes part of you, and you start noticing your emotions in the same way you notice your breath. In real-world situations, mindfulness becomes your shield. Imagine standing in a heated conversation where the other person raises their voice. Normally, you might feel your heart race, your body tighten, and words of defense rush to your tongue. With mindfulness, you notice these reactions as they appear. You say to yourself silently, "I feel anger rising. I feel tension in my body." By naming the feeling instead of acting on it, you create distance. You are no longer consumed by the emotion, you are observing it. From this position, you can choose to respond calmly or even walk away. This is the power of mindfulness in action. Mindfulness is also a practice of slowing down. Modern life pushes people to react instantly to messages, to notifications, to news, to every demand. This constant rush weakens self-control because it leaves no space between experience and reaction. By slowing down, you strengthen awareness. When an email upsets you, instead of typing a quick reply, pause, read it again. Notice how it makes you feel. Then ask yourself whether your response reflects your true intention or just your temporary emotion. This habit prevents regret and strengthens discipline. Another daily application of mindfulness is during ordinary tasks. Eating is a perfect example. Most people eat while distracted by screens or conversations, never fully tasting the food. Mindful eating means paying attention to the flavor, texture, and pace of your meal. This simple shift teaches you how to stay in the present and notice small details. The more you practice in small activities, the more natural mindfulness becomes in bigger challenges. Mindfulness also reshapes your relationship with thoughts. The mind produces thousands of thoughts each day, but not all of them are true or useful. Without mindfulness, you believe every thought and let it dictate your mood. With mindfulness, you notice thoughts as passing events. For example, the thought, "I will fail," may appear. Instead of believing it, you observe it. "I am noticing a thought of failure." By doing this, you separate yourself from the thought. You are not the thought, you are the one watching it. This separation weakens the power of negative thinking and allows you to act based on reason rather than fear. Daily mindfulness also strengthens patience. When you train yourself to observe feelings without reacting, you build the ability to stay calm under pressure. Whether waiting in traffic, dealing with a difficult coworker, or facing uncertainty in life, mindfulness teaches you to remain steady. You realize that frustration is just another passing state, not something that must control you. Patience becomes a natural result of seeing emotions as temporary visitors rather than permanent states. A practical exercise is the 3-second pause. Whenever you feel a strong emotion, count silently to 3 before speaking or acting. In those 3 seconds, take a breath, notice what you are feeling, and ask yourself if your intended response serves your long-term peace. This small habit can save relationships, prevent conflicts, and build immense inner strength. Mindfulness also protects your energy. Many people waste energy replaying the past or worrying about the future. Mindfulness roots you in the present moment, where life actually happens. Each time your mind drifts into regrets or anxieties, gently bring it back to what is happening right now. By doing so repeatedly, you reduce unnecessary suffering and conserve energy for meaningful action. An overlooked aspect of mindfulness is self-compassion. When you observe feelings without judgment, you learn to accept yourself as human. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad, and instead treat them as signals. Sadness means something needs attention. Anger means a boundary was crossed. Fear means you value something at risk. By treating emotions as messages rather than enemies, you reduce shame and increase self-understanding. Mindfulness also improves decision-making. When emotions no longer dictate your actions, you can evaluate situations with clarity. Instead of rushing into choices fueled by impulse, you pause, reflect, and consider long-term outcomes. Leaders who practice mindfulness make better decisions because they respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. You can apply the same principle to daily choices, from financial decisions to conversations with loved ones. Consistency is the key to mastering mindfulness. Practicing once a week will not build the discipline you need. Start small, but practice daily. Take 5 minutes each morning to sit in silence. Use waiting times, like standing in line or sitting in traffic, as opportunities to focus on your breath. Before sleep, spend a few minutes reviewing your day, noticing how you felt in different moments without judgment. These simple practices accumulate, and over months you will notice yourself becoming calmer, more patient, and more in control. Over time, mindfulness creates inner strength that nothing can shake. Life will still bring challenges, but your response will be different. Instead of being pulled into every storm, you will observe the storm, choose your position, and act from strength. You will find yourself speaking less in anger, worrying less about what you cannot control, and enjoying more peace in simple moments. This is the reward of practicing daily mindfulness, the ability to live with presence, clarity, and resilience. The journey requires discipline, but the benefits are profound. Each day you practice, you reclaim more control over your life. Each pause, each breath, each moment of awareness strengthens the muscle of your mind. And as that muscle grows, you stop being a victim of emotions and become their master. Mindfulness does not remove feelings from life. It teaches you how to handle them wisely. By observing without immediate reaction, you gain freedom, and in that freedom lies true peace. Chapter 3. Choose thoughts deliberately and reject narratives that harm progress. Your life will only rise as high as the quality of the thoughts you allow yourself to believe, and every day you have the power to choose them. Most people never stop to consider that their mind is like a filter. It constantly receives impressions, opinions, and memories, yet only what you decide to keep begins to shape your direction. If you do not make this choice deliberately, you end up carrying stories that weaken you, lies that hold you back, and ideas that make progress almost impossible. The truth is, you are not powerless to what enters your head. You can decide which thoughts remain and which ones you reject. That is the discipline of choosing your thoughts with intention. The human brain naturally produces a stream of inner dialogue. Some of it comes from past experiences, some from what you consume, and some from your fears about the future. Left unchallenged, this stream builds a narrative, a story about who you are, what you are capable of, and what is possible for your life. If that narrative is filled with doubt, negativity, or victimhood, it will direct you toward failure before you even take action. This is why it is vital to recognize the stories your mind repeats and ask whether they are helping you grow or holding you down. Choosing thoughts deliberately begins with awareness of what currently lives in your head. Notice the language you use when speaking to yourself. Do you often say, "I can't," "I'm not good enough," or "it always goes wrong"? These are not harmless words. They are seeds that take root in your subconscious. Once planted, they grow into behaviors that prove them true. If you constantly tell yourself that you cannot change, you will avoid opportunities that could prove you wrong. If you tell yourself that people always hurt you, you will push away those who want to care for you. The cycle continues until you break it by rejecting those harmful narratives. A deliberate thought is one chosen with purpose. Instead of letting the mind wander in self-doubt, you consciously select thoughts that align with your goals. For example, when a challenge appears, the automatic thought might be, "This is too hard." A deliberate replacement could be, "This is a chance to grow stronger." The situation is the same, but the thought shifts how you respond. The first leads to giving up, the second leads to resilience. Choosing deliberately does not mean pretending reality is different. It means focusing on the interpretation that empowers you rather than weakens you. A practical way to build this discipline is by questioning each negative thought. When your mind tells you, "I will never succeed," ask for evidence. Has every attempt in your life failed? No. Can future attempts be different with new effort? Yes. By questioning the accuracy of the thought, you strip it of authority. Narratives often thrive because we accept them without inspection. The moment you challenge them, their power fades. Another effective step is replacing vague negativity with specific constructive thoughts. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at this," reframe to, "I need more practice to improve." The first statement shuts down action, the second encourages it. Deliberate thoughts always point toward growth and solution, not defeat. Over time, your mind learns to default toward these constructive interpretations instead of destructive ones. Guarding what you consume also plays a major role in thought selection. The media you watch, the conversations you join, and the environments you spend time in all feed your mind. If you surround yourself with negativity, your thoughts will reflect it. If you spend time with people who speak possibility, your mind will begin to mirror that hope. To choose your thoughts wisely, you must also choose your inputs carefully. Every book, every show, every interaction plants seeds. Ask yourself whether these seeds produce strength or weakness. The practice of deliberate thinking also requires repetition. A single positive thought cannot erase years of harmful narratives. You must train daily, replacing each limiting belief with an empowering one. Write affirmations that reflect who you want to become. Repeat them until your mind begins to accept them as normal. This is not about empty slogans, but about reinforcing truths that align with your potential. For instance, if your harmful narrative is, "I give up easily," your replacement could be, "I finish what I start because I value growth." Say it each day and back it up with small, consistent actions until it becomes part of you. Choosing thoughts deliberately also frees you from the weight of other people's opinions. Often, the harmful narratives we carry are not even ours. They were planted by parents, teachers, or critics in the past. You may have been told you were lazy, unworthy, or incapable, and without realizing it, you repeated those words to yourself for years. Deliberate thought means recognizing that you are not required to carry those labels any longer. You can release them and create your own truth. You are not defined by what someone else believed about you. You are defined by what you choose to believe now. When setbacks happen, narratives often grow louder. The mind says, "See, I told you this would fail." This is where deliberate thinking is most powerful. Instead of confirming the harmful story, you replace it with one that strengthens you. This setback is a lesson. I can adjust and move forward. By doing this consistently, you build resilience. Failures no longer become proof of inadequacy. They become stepping stones for growth. Deliberate thought also impacts emotional health. Negative narratives create stress, anxiety, and hopelessness. When you consciously shift your inner dialogue, your emotions follow. Saying "I am learning" instead of "I am failing" changes not only your mindset, but also your energy. Over time, this builds optimism and steadiness. You feel lighter, stronger, and more capable because the weight of destructive stories no longer drags you down. It is important to remember that thoughts are not neutral. They create direction. If you choose thoughts of discipline, focus, and determination, your actions naturally align with progress. If you choose thoughts of weakness, avoidance, and doubt, your actions follow that path too. Every day, your mind is shaping the road ahead. By choosing deliberately, you take control of that road. A powerful practice is to start each day by setting a mental intention. Before the world fills your head with noise, decide the thoughts you will carry. You might say, "Today I will think thoughts of clarity, progress, and peace." Then, throughout the day, when negativity arises, you return to this decision. This conscious act reminds you that your mind belongs to you, not to fear, not to habit, and not to outside voices. At night, review your day and notice which thoughts dominated. Did you allow harmful narratives to dictate your choices? If so, write them down and create deliberate replacements for tomorrow. This reflection trains you to become aware of patterns and adjust them. With practice, harmful narratives lose their grip and deliberate thoughts become your default state. The reward of this practice is freedom. Freedom from the inner critic that never rests. Freedom from the weight of old stories that kept you small. Freedom from automatic patterns that made you doubt yourself. With deliberate thought, You no longer live on autopilot. You create your life with intention. You stop being a victim of your mind and become the master of it. The discipline may feel challenging at first, but like any skill, it strengthens with practice. Each day you choose thoughts that align with your goals. You build mental muscle. Each harmful narrative you reject adds to your power. Over time you notice a transformation. You think clearer, act bolder, and progress faster. The change does not come from outside circumstances, but from the inner decision to no longer accept stories that hold you back. Your future depends on the thoughts you nurture today. If you want growth, choose thoughts that build growth. If you want strength, choose thoughts that build strength. If you want peace, choose thoughts that build peace. The choice is always in your hands. By mastering this discipline, you take back control of your mind, your actions, and your destiny. Your destiny is shaped by the thoughts you accept and the ones you refuse, and the most powerful act of self-mastery is to choose those thoughts with intention. Each day, thousands of ideas pass through your mind, but not all of them deserve your attention. Some are born out of fear, some come from old experiences, and some are simply echoes of what others have told you. If you do not take control, these random and often harmful narratives begin to dictate your choices. You hesitate because a thought told you that you are not ready. You withdraw because a thought whispered that you will be judged. You stop trying because a thought convinced you that nothing will change. The truth is, thoughts are not commands, they are options. You have the authority to decide which ones to keep and which ones to reject. When you start choosing thoughts deliberately, you no longer live on autopilot. You begin to recognize that every idea passing through your mind either builds you or breaks you. Harmful narratives always sound convincing because they disguise themselves as truth. They remind you of past failures, magnify your fears, and paint the future in dark colors. But if you pause and examine them, you will realize they are not facts, they are interpretations. And interpretations can be changed. By deliberately rejecting these damaging stories, you create room for stronger, healthier, and more productive thoughts to take root. A practical way to begin this discipline is to catch yourself in the act of negative self-talk. Notice phrases like, "I always fail," "I am not capable," or "people never respect me." These are broad, absolute statements that drain your confidence. Instead of letting them run freely, challenge them. Ask yourself, is this completely true? Can I find one example that proves otherwise? By doing this, you break the illusion that the narrative is unshakable. Once you see the cracks in its foundation, you can replace it with something more accurate and empowering. Replacement is the key. You cannot simply push a thought away and leave an empty space, because your mind will quickly fill it with something else, often just as destructive. When you notice a thought that harms progress, decide on a deliberate alternative that directs you toward growth. For instance, instead of "I cannot handle this pressure," shift to "I am learning to handle challenges with strength." This replacement is not blind optimism, but a conscious reframe that strengthens action instead of paralyzing it. Another important practice is to guard the inputs that shape your thoughts. Much of what you think each day is influenced by what you consume: conversations, media, and environments. If you surround yourself with constant negativity, it will feed the harmful narratives already inside you. To take control, choose inputs that align with the thoughts you want to develop. Read material that challenges you to grow. Spend time with people who encourage progress. Expose yourself to stories of resilience and success. By controlling the input, you make it easier to choose empowering thoughts. Choosing thoughts deliberately also means refusing to identify with every idea that arises. Many people believe that if a thought appears in their mind, it must be who they are. But you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of them. This distinction gives you freedom. When a harmful narrative shows up, you can say, "This is a thought, not my identity." That separation weakens its grip and allows you to decide whether to keep it or let it go. To strengthen this ability, practice intentional reflection each evening. Review your day and write down the recurring thoughts that guided your actions. Highlight the ones that moved you forward and the ones that held you back. For every harmful narrative you find, create a deliberate replacement for tomorrow. This exercise not only raises awareness but also trains your brain to shift patterns over time. It is also useful to create a set of guiding thoughts that serve as anchors. These are short, deliberate statements that remind you of your values and direction. For example, I choose growth over comfort. I focus on what I can control. I act with courage despite fear. Repeat these daily, especially in moments of doubt. The repetition builds new mental pathways, making empowering thoughts more natural and automatic. Deliberate thinking is not about denying reality or pretending life is easy. It is about refusing to surrender to interpretations that weaken you. Reality may bring challenges, but your chosen narrative can either make those challenges heavier or more manageable. By deliberately shaping your inner dialogue, you give yourself the strength to move through difficulty with clarity instead of despair. Over time, this practice transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone trapped by circumstance and start seeing yourself as someone who directs their own life. Your confidence grows because you are no longer at the mercy of every negative story. Your progress accelerates because your thoughts push you forward instead of pulling you back. Most importantly, you experience peace because you know that you, not random narratives, decide the course of your life. Every day presents a new chance to practice this discipline. Each harmful narrative you reject is a victory. Each empowering thought you choose is a step toward becoming the strongest version of yourself. The process may require effort, but the reward is immense. A mind that works for you, not against you, and a life shaped by deliberate choice instead of unconscious limitation. Chapter 4. Strengthen self-trust by keeping promises you make to yourself. Nothing builds lasting strength faster than proving to yourself that you can be trusted to follow through on what you say. Most people break promises to themselves without realizing how much damage it causes. Each time you tell yourself you will wake up earlier and then hit the snooze button, your trust in yourself weakens. Each time you say you will eat healthier and then ignore your commitment, your self-belief erodes a little more. These small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they create a deep pattern where your own word loses value, and when your own word has no value, your confidence collapses because you cannot count on yourself. Strengthening self-trust begins with making small promises that you know you can keep. The goal is not to create overwhelming demands that lead to another cycle of failure, but to build a foundation of consistency. If you decide to drink 1 extra glass of water each day, follow through without exception. If you commit to reading for 5 minutes before bed, do it no matter how tired you are. These small acts may appear minor, but each one is a vote for a stronger self-image. Every time you keep your word, you send a message to your mind: I can rely on myself. Consistency matters more than intensity. Many people set huge goals and then collapse under the weight of them. They decide to transform their life overnight, only to break their commitments within days. This destroys self-trust instead of building it. A better approach is to master the discipline of small promises. Once those promises become habits, your trust grows, and you can raise the standard step by step. You do not need to start with life-changing commitments. Start with simple, realistic promises and prove to yourself that your word carries weight. Keeping promises to yourself also requires honesty. Do not make promises out of emotion or in moments of inspiration without considering whether you can realistically sustain them. When you set unrealistic expectations, you set yourself up for disappointment. Be direct with yourself. Ask, can I truly keep this promise every day? Am I willing to make the sacrifice it requires? If the answer is no, adjust the promise to something achievable. Strengthening self-trust comes from doing what you said you would do, not from over-promising and under-delivering. Another powerful practice is to track your commitments. Write down the promises you make to yourself and check them daily. When you see your list in front of you, it becomes harder to ignore. Tracking creates accountability, and accountability strengthens trust. Each check mark you place on that list is proof that you followed through, and each blank space reminds you where you need to improve. Over time, this record becomes a powerful reminder of your reliability to yourself. It is also important to treat your promises with the same seriousness you treat promises to others. Many people would never think of breaking a commitment to a friend or a colleague, yet they casually break commitments to themselves. This double standard must end if you want to build true self-trust. Hold your own word as sacred. If you promised yourself you would exercise, treat it as a non-negotiable appointment. If you promised to avoid distractions while working, keep that promise as if your success depended on it, because it does. Keeping promises to yourself requires resilience, because there will be days when it feels inconvenient or uncomfortable. You may be tired, stressed, or tempted to make excuses. But these are the moments that matter most. Self-trust is not built when it is easy, it is built when it is difficult. Every time you push through resistance to honor your word, you grow stronger. You prove that your commitments are not controlled by your mood but by your decision. Forgiveness also plays a role. If you break a promise, do not use it as evidence that you are incapable. Instead, acknowledge it honestly, learn from it, and recommit with greater determination. The goal is progress, not perfection. Strengthening self-trust means recognizing that setbacks will happen, but they do not erase your potential. What matters is that you return to your promises quickly and do not let broken commitments become a pattern. Another strategy is to link your promises to your values. Ask yourself why each promise matters. If you promise to exercise, connect it to your value of health and longevity. If you promise to save money, connect it to your value of security and freedom. When a promise is tied to something meaningful, it becomes harder to abandon. You are no longer keeping the promise just for the action itself. You are keeping it because it aligns with the person you want to become. Surround yourself with reminders of your progress. Celebrate small victories by acknowledging the days you honored your word. Remind yourself of how far you have come compared to where you started. These celebrations strengthen your motivation and reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. Self-trust grows when you see clear evidence that your actions match your intentions. Over time, this discipline transforms your entire life. When you trust yourself, decision-making becomes easier because you know you will follow through. You gain confidence to set bigger goals because you have built the foundation to achieve them. You no longer live in doubt or hesitation because your own word has become a source of strength. You stop relying on external validation because your own approval matters most. The journey to strengthening self-trust is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It happens in the small, consistent choices you make every day. It happens in the moments when no one is watching and you still do the right thing. It happens when you decide that your own word is as important as any promise you could ever make to someone else. Once you build that trust, no setback, no challenge, and no doubt can shake your foundation. You will live with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are someone who does what they say, and that strength will carry you further than anything else. Chapter 5. Limit exposure to toxic influences and prioritize your mental energy. Your peace of mind is priceless, and the greatest way to protect it is by choosing carefully what and who you allow to influence you. Every day your mind is being shaped by the conversations you hear, the environments you enter, and the people you surround yourself with. If you allow negative influences to dominate your attention, your energy will be drained before you even begin to live your own day. If you allow toxic voices to stay in your circle, they will pull you down until your own goals feel unreachable. Limiting exposure to those influences is not about being cold or selfish, it is about survival and growth. Protecting your mental energy ensures you have enough strength to focus on the life you want to create, instead of being consumed by distractions and negativity. The first step is awareness. Many people do not even notice how much toxicity they consume because it feels normal. Complaining co-workers, critical relatives, endless negative news, or friends who always expect more than they give, all of these can slowly weaken your mindset if you are not paying attention. Begin by observing how you feel after each interaction or environment. Do you leave conversations motivated or exhausted? Do you feel lighter after spending time with someone, or do you feel burdened? Your emotions are signals telling you where your energy is being stolen. When you learn to read those signals, you begin to see clearly which influences need to be limited. Once you have identified the harmful sources, you must create boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting your own strength. If someone constantly complains, reduce the time you spend with them. If social media fills your mind with comparison and anger, limit your usage. If certain places drain you, avoid them unless absolutely necessary. Boundaries are an act of self-respect, and by setting them, you send a clear message to yourself that your peace comes first. A practical way to set boundaries is to decide in advance how much time or attention you are willing to give. Instead of allowing someone's negativity to consume hours of your day, you can keep interactions short and purposeful. Instead of scrolling endlessly through online debates, you can decide to check only specific sources of information that support your growth. These small adjustments make a huge difference in how much energy you preserve. Every boundary you set gives you back time, focus, and strength that can be invested in your own priorities. Another key is replacing toxic influences with uplifting ones. It is not enough to simply avoid negativity. You must also feed your mind with positive and empowering inputs. Spend more time with people who encourage you, listen to voices that inspire action, and choose environments that support progress. Surround yourself with those who are striving to improve themselves, and you will naturally feel motivated to do the same. Your environment shapes your behavior more than willpower alone. So design an environment that pushes you upward instead of dragging you down. You also need to become selective with your conversations. Not every argument is worth your attention, and not every criticism deserves your energy. Some people thrive on conflict and negativity, and if you constantly engage with them, you are playing their game. Choose your battles wisely and conserve your strength for things that truly matter. Silence is often the most powerful response when someone tries to pull you into negativity. By refusing to engage, you keep your energy intact. Your daily routines play a major role in how much exposure you have to toxic influences. The news cycle thrives on fear, social platforms thrive on outrage, and gossip thrives on drama. If you are not careful, these habits can consume your mind. Consider starting your mornings without checking your phone, so your mind is not filled with negativity before your day even begins. Choose books, podcasts, or quiet reflection instead. Protecting the first and last hour of your day is one of the strongest ways to guard your mental energy because it ensures your mind is not constantly hijacked by noise. It is also important to understand that limiting toxic influences does not always mean cutting people out of your life completely. Sometimes it means adjusting expectations. A family member may never change their negative outlook, but you can change how much weight you give their words. A colleague may always gossip, but you can choose not to participate. By lowering the influence these voices have over you, you reclaim your mental freedom without creating unnecessary conflict. Prioritizing your mental energy also means listening to your body. Stress, tension, and exhaustion are clear signs that something or someone is consuming more energy than they deserve. Pay attention to these signals and take action quickly before they grow into bigger problems. Protecting your energy is not just about your mental state, but also your physical health. Toxic influences increase stress, and stress drains both body and mind. By managing what you allow into your life, you protect your overall well-being. Another essential practice is to define what truly matters to you. When you know your priorities, it becomes easier to say no to distractions. If growth, peace, and progress are your top values, then anything that threatens them must be limited. Clarity makes decision-making simple. Without clarity, you will feel guilty saying no, but with clarity, you understand that saying no to toxicity is saying yes to your best life. Some people will resist when you start limiting your exposure. They may accuse you of being distant or selfish. But remember, your responsibility is not to carry everyone else's negativity. Your responsibility is to live your life with purpose. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who do not respect them only prove why those boundaries were necessary. Protecting your mental energy requires courage, but it rewards you with freedom. You gain the ability to focus fully on your goals. You have more patience for the people who matter. You feel lighter, calmer, and more in control. Each decision to step away from negativity is a step towards strength. Each time you choose peace over drama, you reinforce your resilience. Limiting exposure to toxic influences is not about building walls around yourself, but about creating space for growth. It is about giving your best energy to the things that deserve it most: your health, your relationships, your dreams. Life is too short to waste on voices that drag you down. By prioritizing your mental energy, you take ownership of your life and protect the peace that allows you to move forward with clarity and power. Chapter 6. Refuse automatic blame and take responsibility for your responses. Automatic blame is the mind's default reaction when things go wrong. If someone cuts you off in traffic, your first thought may be anger toward them. If you face failure, you may immediately look for someone to hold responsible. This reaction feels natural because the human mind resists discomfort and wants to push it outward. But every time you do this, you give away your authority over your own life. The key is to pause, step back, and refuse that automatic reaction. Instead, you ask yourself, how do I want to handle this? What response aligns with the person I want to be? That moment of choice is where your true power exists. True strength begins the moment you stop pointing fingers and start owning how you respond to life. Many people spend their days blaming circumstances, blaming the past, or blaming others for the way they feel, yet this habit keeps them trapped in weakness. Blame may provide temporary relief, but it steals long-term power. The truth is, you cannot always control what happens around you, but you can always control how you respond. This shift is the dividing line between a life of frustration and a life of freedom. Taking responsibility for your responses does not mean accepting blame for things outside your control. It means refusing to let those things dictate who you are. You may not have chosen the challenge, but you can always choose the meaning you give it. You may not control someone else's behavior, but you can decide whether to let it ruin your mood. By taking ownership of your reactions, you create distance between the event and your identity. You stop being a victim of life and become the driver of your own path. A practical way to build this habit is to train yourself to pause before reacting. When something unpleasant happens, take a breath and allow a few seconds before speaking or acting. That small pause interrupts automatic blame and gives you room to think. In that space, you can choose patience over anger, clarity over confusion, and growth over resentment. Over time, this simple practice rewires your mind to favor responsibility instead of reaction. Another important step is to examine your language. Pay attention to how often you say things like, "They made me angry," or "That ruined my day." These phrases place your emotions in someone else's hands. Replace them with ownership statements, such as, "I felt anger, and I chose how to respond," or "That situation challenged me, but I control my attitude." This shift in language trains your brain to focus on what you can influence instead of what you cannot. There will always be unfairness and obstacles outside your control. People will disappoint you, systems may fail, and life will test you. If you spend your energy blaming, you will remain powerless against these realities. But if you choose responsibility, you gain the ability to rise above them. This does not mean you ignore injustice or accept poor treatment. It means you recognize that your reaction is the one thing no one can take from you. This awareness creates resilience that cannot be shaken by outside forces. One of the most powerful ways to practice this is by reframing setbacks. Instead of saying, "This failure is their fault," ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "How can I use this to grow?" These questions direct your energy toward progress instead of bitterness. Blame locks you in the past. Responsibility opens the door to the future. The moment you stop replaying who was at fault, you free your mind to focus on solutions. Accountability is also essential. When you make a mistake, admit it fully instead of blaming others or circumstances. Excuses may protect your ego for a moment, but they weaken your credibility. Owning your actions builds character and earns respect. More importantly, it builds self-respect because you know you are strong enough to face the truth. Responsibility is not about perfection, it is about honesty and growth. Every time you own your response, you reinforce your discipline. You must also recognize that refusing automatic blame requires humility. It is easier to say someone else is at fault than to look at how you contributed to the outcome. But true growth comes when you are willing to see your own role clearly. If you missed an opportunity because you procrastinated, admit it. If a relationship failed partly because of your actions, accept it. Humility allows you to learn from the experience, while pride and blame only keep you repeating the same mistakes. Over time, this habit transforms your entire perspective. You stop fearing challenges because you know you have the power to choose your response. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed and invest it in what can. You stop waiting for others to fix things for you because you realize you already have the ability to move forward. Responsibility gives you clarity, strength, and direction. It turns every situation, good or bad, into an opportunity to practice control over yourself. Protecting your energy also depends on responsibility. When you carry blame, you carry resentment. Resentment is heavy, it steals joy and clouds judgment. By shifting from blame to responsibility, you release that weight. You may not like every situation you face, but you are no longer a prisoner to it. Your peace depends on your choice, not on anyone else's behavior. That is the kind of freedom most people never experience because they remain stuck in blame. In the end, life will always bring challenges, but your freedom lies in how you meet them. Refusing automatic blame and taking responsibility for your responses does not only protect your peace, it builds an unshakable foundation of self-respect. You begin to trust yourself more because you know you can face reality without excuses. You earn confidence because you no longer rely on external events to determine your state of mind. And you gain control because no matter what happens, the power to respond with strength and clarity remains in your hands. The path is not easy, but it is worth it. There will be times when you feel justified in blaming others, when anger feels like the right response, or when you are tempted to excuse your actions. But each time you resist and take responsibility, you grow more disciplined. Each time you own your response, you prove that your character is stronger than circumstances. This is what separates those who remain stuck from those who rise above. Chapter 7. Develop resilience habits through small daily challenges and reflection. Daily reflection is the second part of this process because challenges without awareness do not lead to growth. At the end of each day, ask yourself what you did that pushed you beyond comfort. Did you show patience when you were tempted to react? Did you finish a task you wanted to postpone? Did you keep going even when your energy was low? Writing these reflections down gives you evidence of your strength. It also shows you where you can improve. The combination of small challenges and honest reflection is like lifting weights for your character. Each repetition makes you stronger. Start with challenges so small they almost feel insignificant because it is not about the size of the task, it is about the consistency of building inner toughness. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Finish that one extra rep when you want to quit. Spend a few minutes in silence when your instinct is to grab your phone. Each of these moments trains your willpower. Each small act tells your brain that you can do hard things even when they are uncomfortable or inconvenient. Over time, these tiny decisions stack into an identity where resilience is automatic. The quickest way to grow stronger is to challenge yourself every single day in ways that test your patience, discipline, and mindset without waiting for life to do it for you. Resilience is not something you suddenly discover during a crisis. It is something you build long before the storm arrives. Every small challenge you take on becomes training for the bigger obstacles that will eventually appear. When you choose to practice difficulty on purpose, you teach your mind and body that discomfort is not something to run from, but something you can face and overcome. Resilience also grows when you willingly face controlled discomfort instead of running from it. If you always seek comfort, you become fragile because the smallest difficulty feels overwhelming. But if you deliberately put yourself in situations that require effort, discomfort becomes familiar. This might mean finishing a project without distraction, pushing yourself during exercise, or even having a difficult but necessary conversation. Each of these challenges may feel uncomfortable, but they build tolerance and teach you that difficulty is survivable. Many people wait for motivation before they push themselves. But resilience is not about waiting for the perfect mood. It is about acting even when you don't feel like it. The small challenge of following through despite low energy is more valuable than completing something when you are already motivated. This trains your mind to stop depending on feelings and start depending on discipline. The more often you do this, the more resilient you become, because you realize that your choices are not controlled by moods. Reflection helps you transform those experiences into wisdom. When you write about how you handled discomfort, you create a record of growth. You see patterns in your behavior, and you notice areas where you often avoid struggle. This awareness allows you to design better challenges for the future. If you notice that you always quit when things get boring, then your next challenge can be to sit with boredom for a few minutes longer. If you see that you avoid conflict, then your challenge can be to express your thoughts calmly, even if it feels uncomfortable. Small, precise challenges paired with daily reflection ensure constant progress. Another powerful way to build resilience is to practice gratitude during challenge. Instead of seeing discomfort as punishment, choose to view it as training. When you reflect on your day, write down not only what was hard, but also why you are grateful for facing it. Gratitude transforms struggle into opportunity. It reminds you that every challenge strengthens you if you choose to use it that way. Over time, you stop resenting difficulty and start appreciating it for the growth it provides. Resilience also requires persistence. A single day of effort will not change you, but repeated effort creates lasting strength. This is why the habit of reflection is critical, because it keeps you accountable over time. When you see a streak of days where you completed small challenges, you feel pride and momentum. When you notice gaps, you know exactly where to recommit. Reflection prevents you from drifting away from your goals because it forces you to face your progress honestly. Resilience is not just about toughness. It is also about adaptability. When life does not go as planned, can you adjust without collapsing? Small daily challenges give you practice in flexibility. For example, when you change your routine slightly on purpose, you train yourself to stay calm when unexpected change arrives. When you fast from certain comforts like unnecessary entertainment, you prove that you can survive without constant stimulation. These exercises may appear minor, but they build adaptability, which is the heart of resilience. Over time, you will notice that situations which once overwhelmed you no longer have the same power. Stressful events become more manageable. Unexpected setbacks no longer feel like the end of the world. You gain confidence not because life gets easier, but because you have trained yourself to handle difficulty with calm and persistence. That is the reward of resilience. It changes your relationship with challenge entirely. You must also learn to separate struggle from identity. Just because you failed to meet a challenge one day does not mean you are weak. It means you faced an obstacle and now have a chance to try again tomorrow. Resilience is about bouncing back quickly, not about never falling. Reflection helps you reframe setbacks as lessons instead of evidence of failure. When you treat mistakes as part of the training, you keep moving forward instead of sinking into guilt. A useful practice is to set one intentional challenge every morning. It does not need to be dramatic. It can be something as simple as finishing a task earlier than planned, or resisting a distraction that normally consumes you. By starting the day with a chosen challenge, you set the tone for resilience. At night, reflect on how you handled it. This creates a daily cycle of intention, challenge, and reflection that strengthens you continuously. The goal is not to live without problems, but to live with the strength to face them. When you develop resilience through small daily challenges, you no longer fear discomfort. When you reflect each day, you learn from every experience instead of wasting it. Together, these practices shape a mindset that can endure stress, adapt to change, and continue growing no matter what. That mindset is what separates those who break under pressure from those who rise above it. Every person has the ability to build resilience. It does not require perfect circumstances or rare talent. It requires daily effort, small steps, and honest reflection. If you begin today with one challenge and one reflection, you have already started the process. As the days add up, your strength will multiply. And when life inevitably tests you with greater obstacles, you will meet them with a calm, steady confidence because you have already trained for them. That is the power of resilience built through consistent daily practice. Chapter 8. Create a personal ritual that centers you before each day. The way you start your morning sets the direction for the entire day, and if you don't take control of that first hour, the rest of the day often controls you. A personal ritual gives you stability before the world makes its demands, a grounding process that ensures you begin not with chaos but with clarity. Without such a ritual, you leave your mindset vulnerable to chance, to distractions, and to the moods of others. With it, you create a stable foundation of focus, confidence, and calm that carries you through whatever challenges come your way. When you begin with a personal ritual, you stop the common cycle of waking up and immediately reacting. Most people start their mornings in a rush, checking phones, scrolling through messages, or thinking about everything that could go wrong. That mindset places you in defense mode before the day has even started. A ritual flips that pattern. It tells your mind and body, I choose the tone of this day, I set the pace, I decide the energy I bring. That single shift gives you control, where most people have none. A ritual does not have to be long or complicated to be powerful. It simply needs to be intentional. It is not about copying what others do, but about designing a practice that centers you personally. For some, it may begin with a few minutes of quiet breathing, focusing on nothing but the rhythm of the inhale and exhale. For others, it might be writing down the top 3 priorities for the day to prevent being pulled in 10 different directions. What matters is that it is yours, something you repeat daily until it becomes an anchor. Creating this practice is also a way of reminding yourself what truly matters. Before the noise of obligations, opinions, and problems arrives, you dedicate time to align with your values. A short meditation, a written affirmation, or a few minutes of light exercise all send the message that your well-being and clarity come first. This mindset spills into everything you do, making you more patient, focused, and intentional in your work and relationships. Reflection is a powerful part of a morning ritual as well. By writing a few sentences about what you are grateful for or what lessons you want to carry into the day, you frame your mind around growth instead of stress. This does not require elaborate journaling. Even a single clear sentence is enough to redirect your thoughts. That written intention becomes a compass you can revisit when the day grows hectic. Your ritual can also be physical because the state of your body influences the state of your mind. Stretching for a few minutes, drinking water slowly and intentionally, or taking a short walk outdoors are simple ways to connect your physical energy with your mental clarity. These actions do not need to be long to be effective. What matters is that you do them with awareness, treating them as deliberate acts of preparation rather than mindless habits. The beauty of a ritual is that it evolves as you grow. What grounds you today may not be what you need a year from now, and that is not a weakness but a sign of adaptation. The purpose of the ritual is not to lock you into rigidity, but to provide a consistent process of centering. If your life circumstances change, you can redesign the practice to fit your new needs. This flexibility ensures that the ritual never loses its power. Many underestimate how much control they actually have over their mornings. Even 10 minutes of intentional practice can transform the way you experience the next 16 hours. Those who say they do not have time often spend that same amount of time on distractions without realizing it. The truth is that you cannot afford not to have a morning ritual, because without it, you are walking into the day unprepared, reactive, and scattered. Some people benefit from incorporating visualization into their morning practice. Spending a few moments picturing how you want to handle the day gives your mind a blueprint for success. It is not about unrealistic fantasy, but about mentally rehearsing the calm, focused, and resilient version of yourself. When the challenges arrive later, your brain recognizes the pattern because you have already practiced it. This makes you less reactive and more deliberate. Building this habit is not about perfection, but about consistency. Some mornings you will feel energized and eager, while other mornings you may feel resistance. That resistance is exactly why the ritual matters. When you follow through despite not feeling like it, you prove to yourself that discipline is stronger than mood. Over time, the practice becomes automatic, and the effort it requires decreases while the impact increases. The ritual also gives you a private victory before you step into the world. No matter what happens later, you can remind yourself that you already started with intention. That memory strengthens you when difficulties arise, because you know you have already chosen discipline once today. This quiet confidence carries over into how you respond to stress, how you interact with others, and how you approach your responsibilities. It is also important to remove pressure from the ritual. This is not about creating a long list of activities that make you feel stressed before the day even begins. It is about identifying a handful of simple actions that genuinely ground you. This might mean drinking a glass of water in silence, writing one line of gratitude, or doing a short breathing exercise. If you start small and stay consistent, you will naturally build momentum and expand your ritual as it becomes part of your identity. As the days and weeks add up, you begin to notice subtle but powerful changes. You react less impulsively, you focus more easily, you recover faster when stress appears, you carry yourself with calm assurance instead of hurried energy. These are the results of a daily ritual, results that may not be dramatic on day one, but accumulate steadily over time until they shape your character. A personal ritual is also a declaration of self-respect. It is saying, before I give my energy to everything and everyone else, I give myself time to align. Most people neglect this and wonder why they feel drained, reactive, and disconnected. By centering yourself first thing in the morning, you ensure that your energy is not built on fragments but on stability. This changes not just how you feel, but how others experience you. There will always be reasons to skip it: fatigue, busyness, unexpected events, but those are the very reasons the ritual is most important. The more chaotic life becomes, the more you need stability. A personal ritual is that stability, a reminder that you can begin with control no matter how uncertain the day ahead may be. A ritual is not about complexity or strict rules, it is about intention. It can be as short as 10 minutes or as long as an hour, depending on your lifestyle. What matters is that it is done consistently and with full presence. For some, this may be quiet breathing and a glass of water. For others, it may involve writing, movement, or simply sitting in stillness before the noise of the day begins. The form does not matter as much as the purpose, which is to create grounding before stepping into responsibility. The energy you carry into the morning becomes the foundation for everything that follows, which is why creating a ritual that centers you is one of the most powerful decisions you can make for yourself. Most people begin their day scattered, rushing, or distracted, but when you commit to a personal ritual, you start from a place of clarity instead of chaos. It is your way of saying that before the demands of the world take over, you decide the tone of your day. That single choice gives you strength, focus, and stability that lasts long after the ritual is finished. If you have never practiced a morning ritual before, start tomorrow. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Begin with something small but deliberate. Create 10 minutes of space where you prepare your mind and body to face the day with strength and clarity. As you repeat this over time, it will become one of the most valuable investments you have ever made in yourself, because it changes not just your mornings, but your entire life. The ritual also acts as a reminder of what is most important to you. When you spend a few minutes journaling, meditating, stretching, or reviewing your priorities, you are not just preparing for tasks, you are reconnecting with your values. This gives your actions meaning, instead of letting them become mindless routine. You approach work, relationships, and challenges with more intention because you already centered yourself around what matters. Your body also benefits when you integrate movement into the ritual. Light stretching, a short walk, or mindful breathing brings energy to your system and clears out the heaviness of sleep. Even a few minutes of this can make your mind sharper and your mood lighter. The key is to do it with awareness, not as another rushed task. When you see it as a grounding practice, it shifts from habit to ritual, from something ordinary to something purposeful. When you wake up and immediately dive into news, notifications, or tasks, your mind becomes reactive. You start chasing instead of leading. A personal ritual flips that. It allows you to begin with focus instead of distraction, with order instead of rushing. You give yourself the chance to breathe, reflect, and align before external demands can dictate your mindset. That small shift makes a massive difference in how you handle stress and how you perform throughout the day. Some people choose to visualize their day during this time, picturing themselves handling challenges calmly, speaking with confidence, or completing important tasks with focus. This mental rehearsal works because it prepares your brain to act with intention rather than react with stress. You begin the day already trained to meet it with strength, which makes setbacks less intimidating. It is easy to underestimate the impact of a morning ritual, but its effects are cumulative. One day of centeredness feels good, but 30 days of it transforms your mindset. You notice you are less reactive, more patient, and better able to focus. You walk into each day with confidence because you already started with clarity. That is the compounding effect of a personal ritual. It builds you in ways that are subtle but powerful. Your ritual should be personal and flexible. What grounds you today might not be what you need tomorrow, and that is normal. The purpose is not perfection, but consistency. If all you have is 5 minutes, use them. If you miss a day, return the next day without guilt. Over time, the practice becomes automatic, and even when life feels unpredictable, you will have a familiar process that gives you stability. There will always be reasons to skip the ritual: fatigue, urgency, unexpected problems, but those are the very days when it is most important. The more chaotic life feels, the more you need stability. The ritual is your anchor, reminding you that no matter how uncertain the day ahead may be, you have already taken control of your starting point. This practice is also an act of self-respect. By giving yourself even a short period of time before the world intrudes, you declare that your peace matters. You are no longer living on autopilot, but deliberately choosing how to begin. That choice changes how you think, how you feel, and how you interact with others. It creates a sense of calm power that carries through every conversation and every decision. If you have not built a ritual before, begin tomorrow. Do not wait for the perfect setup. Choose one practice that centers you, whether it is reflection, movement, stillness, or gratitude, and do it with intention. As days turn into weeks, that ritual will evolve into one of the most valuable habits of your life, because it ensures that every day begins not with distraction, but with clarity, strength, and purpose. Every challenge you face carries a lesson that can strengthen you if you choose to see it the right way. And the difference between those who rise and those who quit lies in how they respond to setbacks. Most people allow difficulties to define them, but the truth is, a setback is not a verdict on your worth or potential. It is simply feedback, information showing you what to adjust, where to grow, and how to move forward with greater clarity. When you learn to reframe obstacles as data instead of failures, you gain a new kind of power, the ability to improve without falling into despair. Think of any goal you have ever pursued. The path was not smooth. There were interruptions, mistakes, disappointments, and moments of doubt. Yet those moments, if studied, contained signals about what worked and what didn't. When you learn to pause and extract the lesson, you stop wasting energy on blame and frustration. Instead, you redirect your energy into solutions. This practice builds resilience because you stop expecting perfection and start expecting progress. Chapter 9. Reframe setbacks as information and plan practical next steps. The first step in reframing setbacks is to control your initial response. When things go wrong, the instinct is often to react emotionally. Anger, disappointment, or self-criticism. Those feelings are natural, but they are not where the answer lies. The key is to recognize them, breathe and shift from reaction to reflection. Ask yourself, what does this situation reveal? What pattern does it expose? What adjustment can I make so this outcome is less likely next time? Those questions turn failure into feedback. Taking ownership of your response is what keeps setbacks from becoming permanent roadblocks. Many people get stuck blaming circumstances, other people, or even themselves in destructive ways. But blame does not move you forward, it only keeps you frozen. Responsibility, however, gives you leverage. By saying, "This is what happened, and here's how I can adjust," you remain in control of your growth. That shift is what separates those who continue improving from those who stay stuck in the same struggles. Practical planning is the next step once you've reframed the event. Instead of replaying what went wrong, focus on creating a clear, actionable next move. If you missed an opportunity, ask how you can prepare better for the next one. If a relationship broke down, identify what communication skills you need to develop. If your effort didn't produce the results you expected, refine your strategy instead of doubting your ability. Each setback can become a foundation for a stronger plan if you approach it with curiosity rather than judgment. Another powerful tool is gratitude for the lesson itself. This may sound difficult in the moment, but training yourself to appreciate the growth hidden within hardship changes how you view every challenge. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending setbacks are pleasant. It means recognizing the gift of experience. Each obstacle sharpens your awareness, strengthens your patience, and pushes you to develop skills you might never have pursued otherwise. By thanking the setback for what it teaches, you shift from resistance to acceptance, which accelerates your progress. Reflection is most effective when paired with writing. By recording what happened, how you responded, and what you learned, you capture the lesson before it fades. This not only strengthens your self-awareness, but also creates a record you can revisit to see how far you've come. Over time, you begin to notice patterns in your challenges, and those patterns highlight exactly where your growth lies. Writing about setbacks transforms them into structured learning moments instead of painful memories you want to forget. It's also important to maintain perspective. A single mistake or failure does not erase your progress. Often setbacks feel larger than they are because we magnify them in our minds. To counter this, step back and measure the situation against the bigger picture. Ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Does this moment define my future, or is it simply part of my journey? This mindset keeps you from exaggerating the weight of temporary struggles. Planning practical next steps also requires breaking goals into smaller, achievable actions. Large setbacks often make you feel overwhelmed, but when you focus on the next small move, momentum returns. If you lose motivation after failure, remind yourself that progress is built through consistent small improvements, not one perfect breakthrough. By simplifying the process into clear actions, you rebuild confidence and prove to yourself that you are capable of moving forward. Surrounding yourself with supportive influences also matters. Sharing your reflections with mentors, friends, or like-minded people can provide perspective you may miss on your own. Others can often see strengths and possibilities in you that you overlook in moments of doubt. Seeking feedback is not weakness, it is wisdom, because it adds more data to help you refine your next step. Resilience comes from repetition. The more often you practice reframing and planning, the more automatic it becomes. At first, setbacks may feel crushing, but over time your mindset adapts. Instead of collapsing under disappointment, you instinctively begin asking, "What's the lesson here? What do I do next?" This automatic shift from despair to strategy is what makes you unshakable. It doesn't mean you avoid difficulty, it means difficulty can no longer stop you. You must also guard against the tendency to label yourself based on setbacks. Too many people attach their identity to their failures, saying, "I'm not good at this," or "I'll never succeed." That mindset is destructive because it confuses an event with your character. A setback is something that happened, not something you are. By keeping that distinction clear, you protect your self-worth while still learning from the experience. Over time, you will notice that the very struggles that once discouraged you become the moments you credit for your growth. You will look back and realize that the lessons you learned in hardship were the turning points that shaped your resilience and discipline. Each difficulty becomes part of the story of your progress, not an interruption to it. Consistency in this practice leads to a new level of confidence. When you know that no matter what happens, you can extract lessons and move forward, fear of failure loses its power. You no longer avoid challenges out of worry, because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. This freedom to act boldly is one of the greatest rewards of learning to reframe setbacks. If you want to stop letting setbacks affect you in destructive ways, commit to this process. When challenges appear, pause and reflect instead of reacting. Ask what the situation teaches, write it down, plan one clear next step, take action, no matter how small. Repeat this process until it becomes natural. By doing this, you transform every obstacle into information and every mistake into a stepping stone toward the life you want. Chapter 10. Protect your time fiercely and defend your priorities daily. The truth is, setbacks will always appear. You cannot remove them from life. What you can do is decide how they shape you. Will you let them break your confidence, or will you use them as fuel to sharpen your skills and deepen your strength? That decision belongs to you, and it is in that decision that your real growth begins. Time is the most valuable resource you will ever have, and if you do not protect it fiercely, the world will take it from you piece by piece until nothing is left for what truly matters. Every day, distractions, obligations, and endless demands compete for your attention, and unless you learn to defend your priorities with clarity and strength, you will find yourself exhausted, busy, but unfulfilled. Protecting your time is not selfish, it is an act of self-respect, because how you spend your hours is how you build your life. Protecting your time begins with saying no. Many struggle with this because they fear disappointing others or missing out, but every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. You cannot build a meaningful life if you give away your hours to obligations that drain you. Saying no with calm confidence is not rejection of others, it is affirmation of your values. When you say no to what does not align, you make space for what truly deserves your energy. The reality is that most people waste time without realizing it. They say yes to commitments they don't care about. They scroll endlessly through meaningless content. They let interruptions dominate their day, and then they wonder why they feel drained and unfocused. To change this, you must first decide what truly matters. What are the tasks, relationships, and goals that move your life in the direction you want? Once you know your priorities, you must guard them with the same intensity you would guard something priceless, because that is exactly what your time is, priceless and irreplaceable. Guarding your time also means limiting distractions. Modern life offers endless ways to waste hours: notifications, gossip, mindless entertainment. Each small distraction may seem harmless, but together they steal enormous portions of your life. To take control, set boundaries with technology, silence unnecessary alerts, and create spaces where you can focus without interruption. Protecting your mental energy is as important as protecting your schedule, because focus is the fuel that makes your time effective. Defending your priorities requires courage. Others may not always understand your choices. They may expect you to be available whenever they want, to drop everything for their requests, or to join activities that mean little to you. But if you allow guilt to dictate your schedule, you will live a life built for others instead of yourself. It takes strength to stand firm and honor your commitments to your own goals, but that strength builds confidence and self-respect. You must also create structure. Without a plan, your day will be consumed by other people's priorities. Begin each morning by identifying the key actions that move your life forward. Write them down. Block out time to complete them. Treat those blocks as non-negotiable appointments with yourself. If someone asks you to give up that time, remind yourself that defending it is essential. Structure does not restrict freedom, it creates it, because when you know your tasks are covered, you can enjoy rest and connection without guilt. It is also important to prioritize rest. Protecting your time is not about filling every moment with productivity. It is about balance. If you push yourself constantly without recovery, your energy will collapse and your priorities will suffer. Scheduling rest, sleep, and quiet time is as essential as scheduling work, because it ensures that when you act with strength instead of exhaustion. Time is also protected by clarity of purpose. When you know exactly why you are doing something, it becomes easier to resist temptations that pull you away. If you are working on your health, remind yourself of the future you are building. If you are growing in your career, stay focused on the opportunities that truly matter, instead of chasing everything at once. Clarity turns decisions from struggles into simple choices, because you no longer waste time debating. You already know what aligns with your vision. Another practical tool is reflection. At the end of each day, review how you spent your hours. Ask yourself, did I give time to what matters most? Did I let distractions steal my focus? Did I protect my priorities or trade them away too easily? This daily check-in helps you adjust quickly instead of repeating the same mistakes. Over time, reflection sharpens your awareness until protecting your time becomes natural. Defending your priorities daily also requires discipline with relationships. Some people will uplift you, respect your time, and support your vision. Others will drain you, ignore your boundaries, and distract you from your goals. Be intentional about who receives your time. Surround yourself with people who align with your growth, and limit access for those who constantly pull you away from it. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your focus. Consistency is where this practice transforms your life. Protecting your time once in a while is not enough. It must become part of who you are, someone who honors their schedule, respects their values, and refuses to trade their hours for meaningless activity. At first, this discipline may feel uncomfortable. You may feel pressure from others, or even from your own habits, but with persistence, you will notice a shift. You feel lighter, clearer, and more in control. The greatest reward of protecting your time is freedom. When you know your hours are being used intentionally, you no longer feel overwhelmed by endless demands. You gain peace of mind because you know each day is building something meaningful. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on what truly matters. That focus compounds over time, leading to deeper relationships, stronger results, and a sense of fulfillment that cannot be achieved through busyness alone. If you want to live with clarity, purpose, and strength, begin by defending your priorities now. Choose what matters most, guard it with discipline, and refuse to let distractions or obligations steal it from you. Every day is a chance to practice this, and the more you do, the more powerful and focused your life becomes. Your time is your life. Treat it with the respect it deserves, and it will reward you with progress, peace, and freedom. Every day you are faced with a choice. You can drift, giving your time away without thought, or you can protect it fiercely and use it to build the life you want. The decision may feel small in the moment, choosing how to spend 1 hour, saying no to one request, turning off one distraction, but those small decisions are what shape your future. Protect your time today, and you protect the life you are creating tomorrow. Think of how often people feel powerless because they become consumed by complaints about the economy, the decisions of politicians, or the behavior of people around them. Hours are lost in worry, comparison, and anger, yet none of those reactions create change. The truth is, you cannot dictate what another person will do, nor can you bend global events to your will. What you can control, however, are the choices you make each moment, what you eat, how you spend your morning, the conversations you start, the tasks you prioritize, and the discipline you bring to your commitments. Training your attention means putting a guard at the gate of your mind and asking a simple question: can I act on this? If the answer is yes, focus. If the answer is no, release it. The difference between a life full of frustration and a life full of progress often comes down to where you choose to place your attention. Every day you are surrounded by countless events, distractions and circumstances that you cannot influence, yet your mind has the power to choose what deserves energy. When you waste your focus on things you cannot alter, you drain yourself before you even begin. But when you deliberately direct your attention only toward actions within your control, you begin to build clarity, strength, and forward momentum that compounds over time. This practice is not about ignoring reality. It is about recognizing where your power actually lies. Chapter 11. Train your attention by focusing only on controllable actions. This shift sounds simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Imagine you wake up and notice rain falling outside. Some people spend the morning irritated, upset that the weather ruined their plans. They complain, lose energy, and start the day with a negative mindset. Others wake up to the same rain but instantly adjust, taking an umbrella, changing their schedule, or using the quiet time indoors to work on something meaningful. Both saw the same event, but only one chose to center attention on actions within reach. That difference creates a ripple across the whole day. Multiply that by weeks, months, and years, and you have entirely different lives built from the same raw materials. Another essential part of this discipline is learning to separate effort from outcome. Many people confuse the two. They believe they must guarantee results, and when results don't appear instantly, they feel defeated. But your responsibility is not the final outcome. It is the quality of your effort. For example, if you are applying for a new opportunity, you cannot control the decision of the company or the timing of their response. What you can control is the preparation of your resume, the clarity of your message, the professionalism in your interview, and the persistence in sending applications. If you invest fully in those controllable actions, you are already succeeding regardless of the external outcome. This mindset allows you to keep moving forward without being paralyzed by disappointment. Training your attention is a habit that requires practice, and it begins by observing where your mind naturally goes. Throughout the day, pause and notice what dominates your thinking. Are you mentally replaying the mistakes of the past? Are you worrying about outcomes you cannot fully dictate? Or are you focused on the small, constructive steps you can take today? Each time you catch yourself spiraling into what is uncontrollable, redirect yourself towards something actionable. That could mean tackling a task you have delayed, reaching out to someone who supports you, or choosing a healthier response in the moment. Over time, this redirection becomes automatic, and you find that fewer things knock you off balance. It is also important to set boundaries around external noise that hijacks your attention. News cycles, social media feeds, and endless conversations about issues far outside your influence can consume hours and leave you exhausted. Limiting your exposure does not mean ignorance, it means conservation. You choose to protect your mental energy for the areas where it will actually make a difference. That might mean reducing how often you check updates, turning off notifications, or being selective about the voices you allow into your mind. By cutting down the volume of noise, you sharpen the ability to concentrate on the work, relationships, and habits that move your life forward. Resisting the pull of uncontrollable events also requires patience. You must accept that some things will not go your way, no matter how hard you try. People may misunderstand you, opportunities may fall through, plans may collapse, but instead of clinging to what should have been, shift attention to how you will respond. Will you learn from it? Will you try a different approach? Will you adjust your strategy? By doing so, you reclaim your strength instead of surrendering it to frustration. Another way to strengthen your attention is through deliberate daily practices. Set aside a few minutes each morning to identify the specific actions within your reach that deserve focus today. Write them down. This could be exercising, finishing a project, learning a new skill, or connecting meaningfully with a friend or colleague. When distractions come, you already have a clear reference point that reminds you of where your energy belongs. Similarly, end your day by reflecting, did I focus on what I could control? Where did I get sidetracked by what I couldn't? This reflection sharpens awareness and gradually retrains your mind. You can see this principle in the lives of resilient people. They face the same challenges and setbacks as anyone else, but they bounce back faster because their attention is anchored on response rather than reaction. They do not waste energy blaming, arguing, or wishing circumstances were different. They move quickly to ask, what is the next step I can take? That simple but consistent question transforms obstacles into pathways forward. The truth is, you always have a choice about where to place your focus. You may not control the storm, but you can control whether you keep rowing. You may not control the noise of critics, but you can control whether you continue building. You may not control the economy, but you can control your work ethic and the skills you develop. Every ounce of attention directed toward controllable actions builds progress. Every ounce wasted on uncontrollable forces adds weight without benefit. When you begin living with this clarity, stress decreases, confidence rises, and productivity multiplies. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you, and you start experiencing it as something you actively shape through deliberate choices. Your attention becomes a tool, not a liability, and each day you use it wisely, you strengthen the foundation for greater achievements and deeper peace. So train yourself starting today. Guard your thoughts, redirect your focus, commit to actions within your control, let go of everything else. In doing so, you not only protect your energy, you gain the ability to create a life of steady progress, no matter what storms surround you. Chapter 12. Practice self-compassion to reduce shame and speed recovery. The weight that holds most people back after mistakes is not the mistake itself, but the shame that follows it. Everyone fails, everyone stumbles, everyone makes choices they later regret, but what determines whether you recover quickly or stay stuck for years is how you treat yourself in the aftermath. If you meet yourself with harsh judgment, endless criticism, and unforgiving self-talk, you prolong the pain and drain your strength. But if you choose self-compassion, you cut shame off at its roots and give yourself the environment to rise again with clarity and determination. Practicing compassion toward yourself is not weakness, nor is it indulgence. It is a strategy for resilience and progress. Once you recognize the mistake without cruelty, the next step is to remind yourself that imperfection is part of the human condition. You are not uniquely broken because you failed. You are human because you failed. Everyone you admire has made errors, faced setbacks, and experienced rejection. The difference is not that they avoided mistakes, but that they did not allow shame to bury them. They practiced compassion for themselves, learned what was necessary, and kept moving forward. Each time you remind yourself of this truth, you loosen shame's grip and create space for recovery. Think about how easily people offer kindness to others who make mistakes. A friend fails at a project, and you remind them it happens to everyone. A colleague loses their confidence, and you encourage them to try again. Yet when it comes to your own failures, you may turn into your own harshest critic, saying things to yourself you would never say to another person. That internal hostility does not create growth, it creates paralysis. The first step toward speeding recovery is to break that pattern and extend to yourself the same understanding you already know how to give others. Self-compassion begins with awareness. Notice the language you use when you fall short. Do you instantly call yourself lazy, unworthy, or a failure? Do you replay the event over and over as proof you are not good enough? That inner dialogue shapes your emotional state, and unless you interrupt it, shame deepens. Instead of spiraling into harsh words, pause and state the facts simply. I made a mistake. I didn't handle that as I wanted to. This neutral acknowledgement strips away exaggeration and keeps your focus on reality rather than on distorted self-attacks. Another crucial part of self-compassion is replacing destructive self-talk with supportive language. This does not mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is fine. It means speaking in a way that encourages action rather than paralysis. For example, instead of saying, "I always mess things up," say, "This didn't go well, but I can learn how to handle it better." Instead of saying, "I'll never recover from this," say, "This is painful now, but I will heal and improve." These small shifts in language change your entire emotional experience, moving you from hopelessness to possibility. To make compassion a habit, create rituals that remind you of your worth during difficult moments. That might be writing down affirmations, practicing deep breathing when shame rises, or keeping a journal where you record lessons from setbacks instead of judgments about yourself. These practices anchor you in self-understanding rather than self-punishment. Over time, they build resilience by proving to your mind that you are capable of falling and still finding a way to stand again stronger. Shame often lingers because people confuse responsibility with self-condemnation. Taking responsibility means acknowledging what you could have done differently and making a plan to improve next time. Shame, on the other hand, says you are broken beyond repair. The truth is that responsibility fuels growth, while shame freezes it. Practicing compassion allows you to embrace responsibility without collapsing into self-hatred. You can say, "Yes, I did this poorly, and here's how I will adjust," while still treating yourself with kindness. That combination accelerates recovery far more than endless guilt ever could. Consider how athletes handle failure. A runner who loses a race cannot afford to drown in shame. If they do, they will train less, avoid competition, and weaken their performance. Instead, the ones who improve are those who analyze their mistakes with calmness, adjust their training, and maintain belief in their ability. They may feel disappointed, but they do not allow shame to become their identity. You can adopt the same mindset in your own life, acknowledge the loss, show yourself understanding, and then act on the lessons learned. It is also important to understand that shame thrives in isolation. When you keep mistakes hidden, your mind magnifies them, convincing you that you are the only one struggling. Compassion grows when you open up to trusted people who remind you that failure is universal. Speaking honestly about your struggles allows you to release the burden of secrecy, and hearing others' experiences reminds you that imperfection does not erase value. Surrounding yourself with supportive voices reinforces self-compassion and makes recovery faster. Self-compassion is not just emotional relief, it has practical benefits. When you treat yourself with kindness, you reduce stress, which improves physical health. You conserve energy that would have been wasted on shame and redirect it toward rebuilding. You maintain clarity, which helps you plan effectively. Most importantly, you develop a stronger relationship with yourself. Instead of being an internal enemy, you become your own ally, and that partnership fuels every future challenge you face. Chapter 13. Set clear limits and communicate them calmly and firmly. Start today by remembering this. Mistakes are events, not definitions. They do not decide your worth. They do not erase your potential. They are information, guidance, and opportunities to refine your path. When you meet them with self-compassion, you strip them of their power to shame you and use them instead to shape a stronger future. That is how you reduce unnecessary suffering and accelerate recovery. There will always be moments where you fall short. That is unavoidable. What is optional is how you treat yourself afterward. You can choose to collapse under the weight of shame, or you can choose to practice compassion that allows you to recover quickly and continue building. Each time you show yourself kindness after failure, you reinforce resilience, speed up healing, and give yourself the best chance to rise higher than before. Many people struggle with limits because they confuse firmness with rudeness. They fear that saying no will hurt relationships or make them appear unkind. The truth is that failing to set boundaries often causes far more damage. When you constantly sacrifice your needs for the comfort of others, resentment builds, energy drains, and your goals stall. Clear limits prevent this because they make expectations explicit. Others cannot take advantage of what is unspoken. When you communicate limits calmly, you remove ambiguity and reduce conflict because everyone understands where the line is drawn. Your life will never expand until you learn to set limits that protect your energy and your focus, because without clear boundaries, others will define your time, your priorities, and even your sense of self. Every moment you allow people or circumstances to overstep your boundaries chips away at your confidence, your clarity, and your ability to act deliberately. Setting limits is not an act of aggression, it is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. When you communicate those limits calmly and firmly, you create space for what truly matters and show yourself and others that your time, energy, and values are not negotiable. The first step is knowing exactly what you are willing to accept and what you are not. This requires honesty with yourself. Reflect on the areas of your life where you feel stretched too thin, overwhelmed, or disrespected. Identify the behaviors, requests, or environments that undermine your priorities. Write them down if necessary. The clearer you are internally, the easier it is to express these boundaries externally. Ambiguity in your mind always leads to inconsistency in your actions, which weakens your limits and invites repeated intrusion. Limits also apply to internal boundaries. You must guard your attention, thoughts, and emotions as fiercely as your time. If you allow negative self-talk, guilt, or distraction to dominate your mind, your focus diminishes. Set limits on how long you will dwell on past mistakes or how much energy you devote to things outside your control. Communicate these limits to yourself with equal firmness. Repeatedly remind yourself, I will focus on what matters, and I will not let unproductive thoughts consume my energy. Internal boundaries amplify the effectiveness of external ones, creating a comprehensive shield for your growth. Once you understand your limits, the next step is to practice stating them calmly. Confidence comes from clarity, not emotion. Your tone should be steady, your words precise, and your message unambiguous. For example, if someone repeatedly interrupts your work time, you might say, I am unavailable between 9 a.m. and noon for calls. Please reach me after that. The statement is firm but not hostile. It asserts your boundary clearly while leaving room for respectful interaction. Calm communication removes tension and reduces the likelihood of resistance. Consistency is critical. Limits lose power if they are enforced inconsistently. If one day you allow interruptions and the next you refuse them, people will test your boundaries endlessly. The strength of a boundary comes from regular enforcement. Each time you uphold it, you reinforce your authority over your time and energy, and others begin to respect your limits naturally. Over time, this creates an environment where your priorities are protected without constant struggle. Clear limits enhance relationships rather than damage them. People respect those who respect themselves. When you communicate boundaries, you set expectations and reduce misunderstandings. Others know what you can and cannot commit to, which creates smoother interactions and less conflict. In fact, relationships often improve when limits are introduced, because they eliminate hidden resentments and clarify mutual responsibility. Boundaries give everyone the opportunity to operate from honesty rather than assumption. Setting limits requires reflection and adjustment. Boundaries are not static. They may evolve as your priorities change. Periodically review your limits and assess their effectiveness. Ask yourself if they continue to protect your energy and support your goals. If you notice patterns where your boundaries are consistently violated, strengthen them. If you find that some limits no longer serve your growth, adjust them. A boundary is effective only when it is aligned with your current needs and values. Another essential element is preparation for pushback. When you establish limits, not everyone will accept them immediately. Some may test your boundaries or attempt to guilt you into bending them. This is natural. When resistance arises, remain calm, repeat your limit without apology, and avoid over-explaining. Your goal is not to convince them, but to reinforce your standard. Repetition builds respect over time, and maintaining composure ensures that your energy is not drained by confrontation. Your life will be measured not by how much you give to others, but by how well you protect what is essential for your growth and focus. Setting clear limits and communicating them calmly and firmly ensures that your energy is reserved for the people, projects, and actions that truly deserve it. It is not about controlling others, it is about controlling your life. By mastering this practice, you create a foundation of strength, clarity, and respect that supports every other principle of self-mastery and personal growth. Chapter 14. Identify core values and align daily choices to them. Finally, setting and enforcing limits is a daily practice. Each interaction, decision, and task presents a chance to defend your priorities. Begin with small limits if necessary, and expand as your confidence grows. The more consistently you practice, the more natural it becomes to protect your time, energy, and values. Each successful boundary reinforces your self-trust and strengthens your ability to act deliberately in every area of life. Once you are clear on your core values, the next step is applying them in daily life. Every decision, big or small, should be filtered through this lens. When faced with a choice, pause and ask, does this action honor my values? Will it move me closer to the person I want to be? If the answer is yes, proceed confidently. If the answer is no, refuse it without hesitation. This practice transforms even mundane decisions into deliberate acts of alignment, and over time, it builds consistency and integrity that others notice and respect. Start by asking yourself fundamental questions. What principles do I refuse to compromise on? What qualities in others inspire trust and respect from me? What kind of person do I want to become over the next 5 or 10 years? The answers to these questions reveal the values that must anchor your life. These are not temporary preferences or social expectations. They are the enduring standards that define your character and your direction. Knowing these values is the first step to aligning every action and decision to a higher purpose. The foundation of a purposeful life begins with clarity about your core values, because every choice you make either honors those values or undermines them, and living without this alignment guarantees confusion, frustration, and wasted energy. Values are not abstract concepts. They are the compass that guides your decisions, the silent force that shapes your relationships, your habits, and the trajectory of your life. Until you identify what truly matters to you, you will drift, responding to external pressures and fleeting desires, rather than steering toward meaningful outcomes. Journaling can be a practical tool for this process. Each morning, review your values and list the actions you intend to take that day that reflect them. Each evening, reflect on your choices. Which actions were aligned with my core values? Where did I compromise and why? This reflection creates accountability and awareness, helping you recognize patterns where alignment succeeds or fails. Over time, it sharpens judgment and makes alignment almost automatic, rather than something you must constantly force yourself to remember. Another key aspect is identifying misalignment. Life is full of activities, relationships, and routines that may appear neutral, but subtly erode your values. A job that demands dishonesty, a friendship that encourages shortcuts, or even habits that consume time without benefit can slowly shift you away from your principles. By regularly evaluating where your energy is going and whether it supports your core values, you regain control over your life and ensure that your daily actions are constructive rather than corrosive. Daily alignment requires discipline because values often conflict with convenience, social pressure, or immediate gratification. For instance, if one of your values is integrity, you may face situations where speaking the truth is uncomfortable or inconvenient. If you value health, you may need to resist indulgences that bring temporary pleasure but long-term harm. Living by values demands conscious effort and repeated practice. Each choice that honors your principles strengthens your self-trust and reinforces your ability to act with purpose. Decision-making improves dramatically when guided by values because you stop chasing outcomes or approvals that do not matter. Instead of reacting to every opportunity or criticism, you act intentionally, guided by principles that are deeply meaningful. This clarity removes confusion, reduces regret, and accelerates progress because every action has a clear reason behind it. Values eliminate hesitation caused by competing desires or external pressures because your internal compass always points to what matters most. Living according to values also strengthens resilience. When challenges arise, setbacks are easier to navigate if you are grounded in what truly matters. You maintain a sense of self, even when external circumstances are difficult, because your decisions are anchored in something unshakable. Values provide stability, allowing you to act decisively under pressure, recover faster from mistakes, and avoid being swept away by emotion or the opinions of others. Values also serve as a filter for relationships. People who share or respect your core values reinforce alignment, while those who consistently challenge or contradict your principles drain energy and create internal conflict. Aligning your daily choices includes choosing who you spend time with and how much influence they have over your life. This does not mean cutting off everyone who disagrees with you, but it does mean prioritizing interactions that support your integrity, growth, and long-term purpose. Finally, aligning daily choices with core values is a lifelong process that compounds over time. Each small, deliberate action builds character, shapes reputation, and strengthens the trajectory of your life. Every day offers countless opportunities to either honor your principles or drift away from them. The person you become, the relationships you cultivate, and the goals you achieve are all reflections of this alignment. By committing to live intentionally in accordance with your values, you transform ordinary days into deliberate steps toward the life you truly want. Chapter 15. Let go of approval seeking and trust your own judgment. The moment you stop seeking approval from others is the moment you reclaim your power and begin making decisions with clarity and confidence. Every time you bend to the expectations of others, even subtly, you give away a piece of your freedom, allowing external voices to dictate your actions, your priorities, and your sense of worth. Life becomes a constant negotiation for validation, and true progress is stalled because your energy is spent on managing perception rather than creating results. Letting go of approval seeking is not about becoming indifferent to others. It is about trusting your own judgment and committing fully to your values, goals, and instincts. Next, shift your focus inward. Begin evaluating your decisions based on criteria that matter to you rather than the imagined opinions of others. Ask yourself, is this choice aligned with my values? Will it bring me closer to my goals? Am I acting with integrity? If the answer is yes, proceed with confidence regardless of how it will be perceived externally. This habit strengthens your internal compass and reduces the power of external judgment over time. People spend decades looking for permission, subtly measuring their choices against imagined standards or imagined judgments. They hesitate to speak, to act, or to pursue goals because they worry about disapproval. The truth is that no amount of external validation can replace self-trust, and the approval of others is fleeting and unreliable. By contrast, when you make decisions based on your own reasoning, experience, and values, you gain consistency and freedom. You stop chasing reactions and start building results, confidence, and credibility. The first step is to recognize when you are seeking approval. Notice the moments when your choices are motivated more by fear of judgment than by genuine intention. Do you avoid speaking up in meetings to prevent criticism? Do you compromise on deadlines, standards, or priorities because you worry about being liked? Awareness is crucial because you cannot change what you do not see. Observing these patterns allows you to intervene consciously instead of reacting automatically. Another practical strategy is to mentally rehearse your choices before acting. Visualize making a decision based solely on your reasoning, values, and objectives, and imagine the possible reactions of others. By mentally preparing, you desensitize yourself to the fear of disapproval. You begin to understand that even if someone disagrees, your choice remains valid because it is grounded in clarity and intention. Rehearsal strengthens the connection between self-trust and action. It is important to distinguish between constructive feedback and approval seeking. Feedback provides valuable information that can help you improve, while approval seeking is a compulsive need for affirmation that distracts you from purpose. Accept advice, learn from mistakes, and refine your approach, but do not let the desire to be liked or validated dictate your actions. Your life will always move faster and with more authenticity when your decisions come from your own judgment rather than the fluctuating opinions of others. Letting go of approval seeking also requires embracing discomfort. Fear of criticism or rejection is natural, but growth occurs when you act despite it. Each time you make a choice without needing permission, you reinforce self-trust and weaken the need for external validation. Start small if necessary. Express an opinion, pursue a project, or decline a request based on your priorities. Each action compounds, gradually freeing you from the chains of dependence on others' approval. It is essential to remember that mistakes are not evidence that you need approval. Errors are information, not judgments on your worth. Self-trust includes accepting your fallibility and learning from it without turning to others for validation. When you act responsibly, reflect and adjust, you gain competence, clarity, and resilience. Seeking approval in response to mistakes undermines this process by focusing on image rather than improvement. Self-trust grows through consistency. The more frequently you act according to your judgment, the stronger your confidence becomes. In contrast, deferring constantly to external approval creates dependency and self-doubt. Each time you make a decision and honor it without compromise, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of navigating life responsibly. Over time, this becomes automatic. You act decisively because you trust your own mind, not because you hope someone else will approve. Relationships also improve when you let go of approval seeking. When your actions are driven by authenticity rather than people-pleasing, others interact with the real you. You communicate your boundaries, expectations, and intentions clearly. This reduces tension caused by hidden agendas or unspoken compliance. People may not always like your decisions, but respect grows when they see consistency, integrity, and self-assurance. Approval may be optional, but respect is often a natural byproduct of self-trust. Breaking free from approval seeking is a lifelong practice. Every decision offers an opportunity to choose independence over validation, integrity over compromise, and self-trust over fear. The more consistently you act based on your own judgment, the less power external opinions hold over you, and the more energy you reclaim for meaningful action. Over time, life shifts from a reactive, approval-driven cycle to a proactive, purpose-driven journey. Ultimately, the greatest freedom comes from realizing that your value and capability are inherent. You do not need others to confirm your worth, and you do not need permission to pursue what matters. Trusting your own judgment empowers every decision, strengthens every action, and clarifies every step forward. The life you want is built not on the approval of others, but on the confidence, integrity, and consistent choices that emerge from trusting yourself completely. Chapter 16. Build a support network that encourages growth and accountability. The people you surround yourself with will either lift you toward your highest potential or weigh you down with doubt and distraction, and building a support network that encourages growth and accountability is one of the most powerful investments you can make in yourself. No one achieves greatness alone, and the right network acts as both a mirror and a guide, reflecting your strengths, challenging your weaknesses, and holding you to the standards you have set for yourself. Choosing who you allow close to your journey is as critical as choosing your own actions, because influence is unavoidable and it determines how quickly and effectively you grow. A strong support network begins with clarity about the kind of influence you want in your life. Consider what traits you admire in others: discipline, optimism, wisdom, persistence, and seek relationships that reinforce those qualities. Surround yourself with people who are honest, ambitious, and constructive rather than critical, distracted, or negative. These connections serve as a catalyst for progress, not a source of comparison or anxiety. When you consciously choose your circle, you ensure that energy, advice, and motivation align with your goals. Accountability is a central element of a growth-oriented network. People who genuinely care about your development do not merely offer encouragement, they check your actions, ask questions, and provide honest feedback. This may feel uncomfortable at times, but it is essential for self-improvement. Accountability transforms intention into action because it requires you to follow through. When you know someone is observing your progress and will hold you responsible, procrastination and excuses lose their power. Over time, accountability reinforces discipline and creates a natural cycle of growth. Building this network requires both selection and reciprocity. Relationships must be mutually beneficial. You cannot expect constant support without providing the same in return. Be willing to encourage, offer insight, and contribute value to the people around you. Growth-oriented networks thrive on shared commitment to improvement, and your investment in others strengthens trust and deepens connections. This reciprocity creates a stable foundation for long-term collaboration, mentorship, and mutual accountability. Another crucial aspect is seeking diversity within your network. Surrounding yourself with people who share your values and goals is important, but exposure to different perspectives challenges assumptions and stimulates innovation. People who think differently from you provide insight that you may not have considered, highlight blind spots, and offer alternative approaches to problems. Balancing alignment with diversity ensures that your growth is not narrow or stagnant, but expansive and adaptive. Regular communication is essential to sustaining these relationships. It is not enough to identify supportive people, you must engage with them consistently. Share updates on your goals, discuss challenges, ask for advice, and celebrate wins together. Communication builds connection, reinforces accountability, and maintains mutual investment. The consistency of interaction strengthens trust and ensures that the network continues to serve as a constructive force rather than a passive association. Selectivity is critical in building a high-quality network. Not everyone will contribute to your growth, and not all relationships deserve the same level of energy. Identify individuals who bring out the best in you, who challenge you appropriately, and who model behaviors you aspire to. Let go of connections that drain energy, normalize negative habits, or encourage stagnation. Protecting your inner circle is as important as cultivating it, because distractions and toxicity can erode progress faster than any external obstacle. Mentorship plays a key role within a support network. Seek out those with experience, perspective, and wisdom in areas where you want to grow. A mentor provides guidance, shares lessons learned, and helps you avoid common pitfalls. They offer both encouragement and challenge, demonstrating that accountability is not punishment, but a tool for advancement. Equally, consider mentoring others. Teaching, guiding, and holding others accountable strengthens your own skills and solidifies the culture of growth within your network. Growth networks also require vulnerability. Being open about challenges, doubts, and mistakes allows others to provide targeted support. Vulnerability does not mean weakness. It means being honest about your current state while committing to improvement. Sharing difficulties invites constructive input and reinforces accountability because you are not hiding from your progress. When vulnerability is combined with consistent action, it accelerates learning and reinforces trust among peers. Finally, building a support network is not a one-time task but an ongoing process. Relationships evolve, goals shift, and energy dynamics change over time. Regularly evaluate your network to ensure it continues to align with your values, objectives, and personal development priorities. Adjust, expand, or release connections as needed to maintain a circle that fuels growth rather than drains energy. A carefully cultivated network becomes a powerful force multiplier, amplifying your potential and keeping you committed to continuous improvement. Your growth is not achieved in isolation. By deliberately building a network of people who encourage progress, challenge your comfort zones, and hold you accountable, you accelerate learning, reinforce discipline, and gain clarity on your path. This network becomes both a support system and a mirror, showing you where you are succeeding, where you need adjustment, and where your potential can expand further. Surround yourself with people who elevate your life, and you create an environment where consistent growth, accountability, and achievement become inevitable. Chapter 17. Practice emotional naming to lessen intensity and gain clarity. The people you surround yourself with will either lift you toward your highest potential or weigh you down with doubt and distraction. And building a support network that encourages growth and accountability is one of the most powerful investments you can make in yourself. No one achieves greatness alone, and the right network acts as both a mirror and a guide, reflecting your strengths, challenging your weaknesses, and holding you to the standards you have set for yourself. Choosing who you allow close to your journey is as critical as choosing your own actions, because influence is unavoidable, and it determines how quickly and effectively you grow. A strong support network begins with clarity about the kind of influence you want in your life. Consider what traits you admire in others: discipline, optimism, wisdom, persistence, and seek relationships that reinforce those qualities. Surround yourself with people who are honest, ambitious, and constructive, rather than critical, distracted, or negative. These connections serve as a catalyst for progress, not a source of comparison or anxiety. When you consciously choose your circle, you ensure that energy, advice, and motivation align with your goals. Accountability is a central element of a growth-oriented network. People who genuinely care about your development do not merely offer encouragement. They check your actions, ask questions, and provide honest feedback. This may feel uncomfortable at times, but it is essential for self-improvement. Accountability transforms intention into action because it requires you to follow through. When you know someone is observing your progress and will hold you responsible, procrastination and excuses lose their power. Over time, accountability reinforces discipline and creates a natural cycle of growth. Building this network requires both selection and reciprocity. Relationships must be mutually beneficial. You cannot expect constant support without providing the same in return. Be willing to encourage, offer insight, and contribute value to the people around you. Growth-oriented networks thrive on shared commitment to improvement, and your investment in others strengthens trust and deepens connections. This reciprocity creates a stable foundation for long-term collaboration, mentorship, and mutual accountability. Another crucial aspect is seeking diversity within your network. Surrounding yourself with people who share your values and goals is important, but exposure to different perspectives challenges assumptions and stimulates innovation. People who think differently from you provide insight that you may not have considered, highlight blind spots, and offer alternative approaches to problems. Balancing alignment with diversity ensures that your growth is not narrow or stagnant, but expansive and adaptive. Regular communication is essential to sustaining these relationships. It is not enough to identify supportive people. You must engage with them consistently. Share updates on your goals, discuss challenges, ask for advice, and celebrate wins together. Communication builds connection, reinforces accountability, and maintains mutual investment. The consistency of interaction strengthens trust and ensures that the network continues to serve as a constructive force rather than a passive association. Selectivity is critical in building a high-quality network. Not everyone will contribute to your growth, and not all relationships deserve the same level of energy. Identify individuals who bring out the best in you, who challenge you appropriately, and who model behaviors you aspire to. Let go of connections that drain energy, normalize negative habits, or encourage stagnation. Protecting your inner circle is as important as cultivating it, because distractions and toxicity can erode progress faster than any external obstacle. Mentorship plays a key role within a support network. Seek out those with experience, perspective, and wisdom in areas where you want to grow. A mentor provides guidance, shares lessons learned, and helps you avoid common pitfalls. They offer both encouragement and challenge, demonstrating that accountability is not punishment, but a tool for advancement. Equally, consider mentoring others. Teaching, guiding, and holding others accountable strengthens your own skills and solidifies the culture of growth within your network. Growth networks also require vulnerability. Being open about challenges, doubts, and mistakes allows others to provide targeted support. Vulnerability does not mean weakness, it means being honest about your current state, while committing to improvement. Sharing difficulties invites constructive input and reinforces accountability because you are not hiding from your progress. When vulnerability is combined with consistent action, it accelerates learning and reinforces trust among peers. Finally, building a support network is not a one-time task but an ongoing process. Relationships evolve, goals shift, and energy dynamics change over time. Regularly evaluate your network to ensure it continues to align with your values, objectives, and personal development priorities. Adjust, expand, or release connections as needed to maintain a circle that fuels growth rather than drains energy. A carefully cultivated network becomes a powerful force multiplier, amplifying your potential and keeping you committed to continuous improvement. Your growth is not achieved in isolation. By deliberately building a network of people who encourage progress, challenge your comfort zones, and hold you accountable, you accelerate learning, reinforce discipline, and gain clarity on your path. This network becomes both a support system and a mirror, showing you where you are succeeding, where you need adjustment, and where your potential can expand further. Surround yourself with people who elevate your life, and you create an environment where consistent growth, accountability, and achievement become inevitable. Chapter 18. Create boundaries around devices to reclaim focus and calm. Your focus and calm are under constant attack from devices designed to demand your attention, and creating boundaries around them is essential to reclaiming control over your mind and your time. Every notification, alert, or pop-up pulls you away from intentional action, fragments your thoughts, and slowly erodes your ability to concentrate deeply. Without clear limits, devices dictate your schedule, influence your mood, and shape your habits without your consent. By establishing intentional boundaries, you regain clarity, mental energy, and the ability to direct your life, rather than react to constant digital demands. The first step is awareness. Observe how devices impact your day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Track the number of times you pick up your phone without purpose, scroll mindlessly, or react to notifications. Identify the apps, messages, or platforms that distract you most frequently. Understanding these patterns creates a baseline and highlights areas where boundaries are most needed. Awareness is the foundation of change, because you cannot adjust what you do not recognize. Next, define your purpose for using each device. Every tool should serve a specific function, aligned with your goals, not a source of constant stimulation. Ask yourself, why do I need this device right now? Is it helping me achieve something meaningful, or is it merely a filler for boredom or habit? When use is intentional, your relationship with technology shifts from reactive to deliberate. Every interaction becomes a choice rather than an automatic response, preserving focus and energy. Implement physical and temporal boundaries. Designate times and places where device use is restricted. For example, avoid checking your phone first thing in the morning or late at night. Keep devices out of the bedroom to protect sleep and mental calm. During work or creative tasks, place phones and tablets out of immediate reach. Creating physical separation reinforces mental separation, preventing the mind from constantly wandering toward notifications or distractions. Use digital tools to support boundaries. Silence non-essential notifications, limit social media exposure, and set screen time restrictions where appropriate. These measures reduce temptation and help you practice discipline consistently. The goal is not to eliminate devices entirely, but to control them so that they serve you instead of dominating your attention. Structured use creates calm and allows sustained focus on important tasks. Establish rituals for device-free periods. Start with small increments of time, such as 30 minutes, and gradually increase as your comfort grows. Use this time to read, reflect, exercise, or engage in meaningful conversation. Intentional breaks from screens restore mental energy, improve mood, and enhance creativity. Over time, these practices strengthen your ability to resist constant distraction and cultivate a calm, present state of mind. Boundaries also require mindfulness in communication. Decide in advance how and when you will respond to messages, emails, and calls. Avoid the trap of immediate response unless the situation is urgent. Communicate your expectations clearly to others if necessary, explaining that certain periods are reserved for focused work or rest. This clarity prevents misunderstandings and reduces pressure to react instantly, allowing your attention to remain anchored where it matters most. Evaluate the content you consume. Devices are gateways, and the quality of information you absorb affects your mental state. Reduce exposure to negative, distracting, or unproductive media. Seek content that informs, educates, or inspires you. Curate feeds and notifications to reinforce focus and positivity rather than fragmentation and anxiety. The media you allow into your life should support your goals and values, not undermine them. Boundaries also extend to multitasking. Avoid splitting attention between devices and important tasks. Research shows multitasking reduces efficiency, creativity, and memory. Commit fully to one task at a time, using devices only as tools when necessary. When a phone or tablet is required for work, set clear start and stop points and eliminate secondary distractions. Focused engagement strengthens skill, insight, and productivity while preserving calm. Finally, review and adjust boundaries regularly. Technology evolves, and so do habits and priorities. Periodically assess whether your rules are effective and modify them to suit your current goals and lifestyle. Reinforce habits that work and eliminate practices that allow distraction to creep back in. Consistent evaluation ensures that your boundaries remain robust, protecting focus and mental calm in an increasingly demanding digital world. Creating boundaries around devices is not a restriction, it is liberation. By deliberately controlling when, where, and how you engage with technology, you reclaim attention, enhance clarity, and foster inner peace. Each boundary strengthens self-discipline, preserves energy for meaningful work, and reinforces the principle that your mind and time belong to you. With intentional practice, devices become tools rather than masters, allowing you to navigate daily life with focus, calm, and purpose. Chapter 19. Challenge negative beliefs with evidence and measurable counteractions. Negative beliefs have the power to quietly shape your decisions, limit your potential, and distort your perception of reality, and challenging them with evidence and measurable counteractions is one of the most effective ways to regain control over your life. Every unexamined belief carries assumptions that feel true, but are often based on past experiences, fear, or incomplete information. Accepting them without question allows them to dictate behavior, undermine confidence, and stall progress. To break free, you must scrutinize these beliefs, gather facts, and implement concrete steps that prove they are not absolute. The first step is identification. Pay attention to recurring thoughts that cause doubt, fear, or hesitation. Statements like, "I'm not capable," "I always fail," or "I can't change," are signals of limiting beliefs. Write them down and observe when they appear. Awareness is essential because negative beliefs often operate beneath the surface, influencing decisions without conscious recognition. Naming each belief makes it tangible and sets the stage for examination. Once identified, evaluate each belief critically. Ask, what evidence supports this belief? What evidence contradicts it? Often, you will find that negative beliefs rely on selective memories, assumptions, or one-time events, rather than comprehensive truth. Challenging them requires honesty and willingness to consider facts objectively. Document examples from your life where the belief did not hold true and notice patterns that contradict the limiting assumption. Evidence-based examination reduces the emotional weight of negative beliefs and exposes their flaws. Measurable counteractions are the next step. Each belief must be confronted with specific, actionable steps that prove its inaccuracy. For instance, if you believe you cannot maintain discipline, create a small daily routine with measurable goals and track completion. Each success directly contradicts the limiting belief, replacing it with evidence of capability. By turning abstract doubts into concrete actions, you transform thought patterns into verifiable outcomes. Consistency is critical in this process. Challenging beliefs once is not enough. Repetition strengthens the neural pathways associated with new thinking and diminishes the influence of old patterns. Establish regular practice by revisiting each negative belief, assessing progress, and taking additional counteractions. Over time, consistent evidence and repeated success reinforce new empowering beliefs and weaken the old limiting assumptions. It is also essential to separate self-worth from beliefs. Holding a negative belief about ability or potential does not define your intrinsic value. You can acknowledge the thought without accepting it as truth about who you are. This distinction creates space for growth and action, allowing you to engage with counter-evidence objectively rather than defensively. Understanding that beliefs are changeable mental constructs empowers you to experiment, adjust, and succeed. Tracking progress quantitatively enhances the impact of counteractions. Keep logs, charts, or simple notes that measure outcomes related to challenging beliefs. Seeing documented progress provides undeniable proof that contradicts negative assumptions. Measurement turns abstract confidence building into tangible results, motivating further effort and reinforcing the principle that evidence outweighs fear. Support from others can accelerate the process. Share goals or counter-actions with mentors, friends, or accountability partners who provide feedback and perspective. External input helps validate evidence, ensures objectivity, and maintains momentum when self-doubt reappears. Constructive challenge from others strengthens your commitment to confronting negative beliefs and offers alternative strategies you may not have considered. Reframing language is another powerful tool. Negative beliefs are often reinforced by habitual statements or self-talk. Replace "I can't" with "I will learn to" or "I am capable of practicing." The words you use influence perception and behavior. By intentionally shifting language to reflect possibility and action, you reduce the automatic acceptance of limiting beliefs and open pathways to measurable results. Finally, recognize that challenging negative beliefs is a lifelong process. New circumstances, challenges, and environments may trigger old patterns. Continual vigilance, repeated evidence gathering, and consistent counteractions are necessary to maintain growth. Each time a limiting belief is disproven through measurable action, you strengthen self-confidence, clarity, and resilience. Your life becomes guided by truth and capability rather than fear and assumption. Chapter 20. Commit to lifelong growth by tracking progress and adjusting. True growth is not accidental. It is the result of deliberate, consistent effort and committing to lifelong growth. By tracking progress and adjusting is the most reliable way to ensure your life moves steadily forward. Every person who achieves lasting change does so because they monitor their actions, reflect on outcomes, and make informed adjustments to improve continually. Without tracking, effort becomes directionless and progress invisible. Without adjustment, habits and strategies can stagnate, leading to frustration or regression. Committing to this process transforms ambition into measurable, sustainable results. The first step is to define what growth means to you personally. Growth is different for everyone, and clarity about what you want to develop, skills, mindset, habits, relationships, or health is critical. Identify key areas that matter most to your goals and values. Specificity allows tracking to be meaningful because vague intentions cannot produce concrete feedback. Knowing exactly what you aim to improve ensures that every action contributes purposefully toward measurable progress. Next, create a system for tracking your actions and outcomes. This can include journals, spreadsheets, apps, or simple notes, as long as it captures data you can review consistently. Record not just achievements, but also challenges, setbacks, and patterns that emerge over time. Tracking provides clarity on what works and what does not, allowing you to focus energy where it produces results. Without consistent documentation, improvement becomes subjective and easily forgotten. Reflect on your data regularly. Set aside time daily, weekly, or monthly to evaluate what you have accomplished and where you can improve. Reflection is not about self-criticism, it is about honest assessment and awareness. Ask yourself, which actions brought me closer to my goals? Which strategies were ineffective? What external factors influenced my outcomes? Reflection creates insight, guiding informed adjustments rather than blind repetition. Adjustment is the critical link between tracking and growth. Data without action does not change behavior. When you identify gaps, obstacles, or ineffective approaches, design specific changes to overcome them. Adjust routines, set new benchmarks, or refine strategies. Even small modifications compound over time, producing significant advancement. Flexibility in approach demonstrates intelligence and resilience because you learn to adapt without abandoning your goals. Accountability strengthens lifelong growth. Share progress with mentors, peers, or accountability partners who can provide perspective, challenge assumptions, and celebrate milestones. External oversight encourages consistent tracking and reinforces commitment. Knowing someone else observes your efforts adds motivation to maintain habits and apply adjustments consistently. Growth is accelerated when it is supported by a system of feedback and reinforcement. Celebrate progress deliberately. Recognize small wins as evidence that your efforts are producing results. Acknowledgement reinforces positive behavior, motivates continuation, and reduces the risk of burnout. Growth is sustained not just by correcting mistakes, but by reinforcing success. When achievements are tracked and recognized, you cultivate confidence and a mindset oriented toward continuous improvement. Lifelong growth also requires anticipating plateaus. Progress is rarely linear. Periods of stagnation are normal. Tracking allows you to detect plateaus early and respond with targeted adjustments. Experiment with new approaches, acquire additional knowledge, or modify routines to overcome stagnation. Understanding that plateaus are part of the process reduces frustration and strengthens resilience, enabling you to maintain momentum through challenges. Mindset is equally important. Lifelong growth is fueled by curiosity, openness, and a willingness to learn from every experience. Approach setbacks, criticism, and failures as opportunities for adjustment rather than evidence of inadequacy. When you commit to constant learning, tracking becomes a tool for empowerment rather than judgment. Every insight gained from tracking and adjusting is a stepping stone toward mastery, not a measure of limitation. Finally, integrate growth into daily life as a habit rather than a separate task. Incorporate tracking and reflection into routines. Set reminders to review progress and make adjustment a natural response to feedback. Over time, this practice becomes automatic, ensuring that personal development is continuous, responsive, and aligned with evolving goals. Lifelong growth is not a destination but a dynamic process, and your commitment to tracking and adjusting ensures that every step you take builds momentum, competence, and fulfillment. By tracking progress and adjusting intentionally, you transform your life into a cycle of consistent improvement. You gain clarity on what works, eliminate what does not, and make informed choices that move you closer to your highest potential. This practice fosters discipline, resilience, and self-awareness, creating a foundation for sustainable success. Commitment to lifelong growth is not about perfection, it is about persistent action, reflective learning, and continuous refinement. Over time, these principles compound into profound transformation, empowering you to navigate life with confidence, purpose, and unwavering direction.